Success. Success. A little washed out. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Saturday. Welcome to the bar. Welcome to the bar. I have to watch my crop box, so welcome to the bar. Come in. Join me. Welcome, happy Saturday, everybody. I realize that I think I'm a little washed out. Oh, maybe it's just that screen. Let me see. Nah, it's okay. It's too early to start worrying about that kind of stuff anyway. Welcome. Thank you to all my folks in the Twitterverse. What I noticed is my aggregate is not pulling comments from the Twitters, so I'm seeing a lot of activity, and I thank you greatly for joining me today. Chaotic, welcome. It's working good. No stutters. I'm going to see if I can fix that, because the biggest part of this and the purest form of joy for me in doing this is interacting with you. And if I can't see the comments from Twitter, then it's not no fun, but it's a discount on the fun that is to be had. So let me just take a quick look here on the Twitters. Hello, my fellow adventurers. I'm excited because I'm back. And I know if you've been with me for a long time, you know that I've always kind of tried to push to do this right and to try and keep it consistent. Sometimes life gets in the way, but I get fewer joyful opportunities than those that I have in spades when I'm streaming and hanging out with the community and talking in real time. So yeah, this is really what I love, and I want to do more of it. So I do have a schedule now. I found that I had a tendency to overthink a little bit. And so today I said, you know what? I'm going to stop worrying so much about just making things perfect and having a plan and all that stuff, and just get into the doing. So that's what we're doing here. And I do have a schedule now. It's a good time. It's good times. I'm trying to find out how I can see the comments from my folks on Twitter in real time. It appears that the best way to do that is just to keep Periscope open, because Periscope is where that action comes from. Yeah. But we'll toy with the mechanics of it later. I can see everything on another screen as well. So I won't miss you, or I won't lose you. I will miss you greatly if you don't speak up in chat. But I understand people are shy. You know, I'm not here to pressure you. But please do say hello. Please do speak up. Don't be shy. I'm going to see if I can maybe reload this. See if it'll reload my chat and give me some love here. Because I should be seeing that in my overlay too, and I'm not. I'm not seeing the chat. Perhaps someone can just be brave and help me test chat and just shoot me any kind of message in chat right now. I would greatly appreciate it. But it's okay. I'm here for your entertainment. We have I've got a little bit of a schedule I want to keep to today. We're gonna just chat, have some fun, get back and forth. Bottled Marrow, heyo, welcome. Thank you very much. Successful test. Chat's being aggregated from one of those lovely platforms out there. Bottled Marrow, welcome to the stream. Thank you for joining. If you're new to the stream, feel free to toss me a follow. And hopefully, yes, success. And I see you coming up on the overlay. Full circle, sweet, sweet technical validation. Damn, that deserves some coffee. My grog cup runneth full. Thank you, sir, Bottled Marrow, and welcome to the stream today. We're talking all things Dungeons and or Dragons, sometimes both, simultaneously. So you're in the right place. My hair is at maximum width. I think it's going to keep getting higher and higher and larger as this isolation shenanigan continues, until eventually it just takes over. My whole camera will just be hair, and you'll hopefully see like two beady little eyes poking out from in there somewhere. If any of you in chat have questions or comments or just want to talk about something specific Dungeons and Dragons related, we sometimes do life related too, if you're so inclined. My only caveat is no asshattery. If someone in chat is irritating you, please feel free to mute them. If someone in chat is irritating the entire audience, then I will boot them. That's a little rhyme that I just made up because I'm also a songwriter, obviously. So that's my only caveat. So otherwise, we're here to talk about anything you want. Pull up a stool, grab a drink, filleth thy mug with whatever your poison shall be, and let's get warmed up. Don't be shy. If you're out there and you're lurking, that's fine. Just say, I'm lurking, and I'll leave you alone. But otherwise, let's talk D&D. A lot of changes coming down the way the pipe for the channel. I've really started to take my time and put some effort into the overlays, the how I want to present these shows. I've always thought, like I said, streaming is a huge passion for me. I love it a lot. I don't do it for the money. I do it for the engagement. I do it for the audience. I do it just to get out here and chat because I spend a lot of time during the week. I produce daily D&D content, and it's usually kind of just me and a keyboard and my brain going into overdrive. So this gives me an opportunity to jump on and interact with people so that I remember how to socialize, at least in the digital format. Bottled, speaking of drink, be back after grab a coffee. Please do. Let's get hype. Let's get caffeinated. Yeah, so this is my opportunity to get back and forth with y'all. And I know there are a couple of things that I didn't do in previous iterations of this, just to give you some context, particularly if you're new to the stream. I've been doing this for a long time. If I'd stuck with it consistently when I started in probably 2015, 2016, then I would probably be like the ninja of D&D right now. That's pretty ambitious, actually. That's giving myself way too much credit, but I wanted to see how it sounded. Now it's out there forever. I've been up and down with it, and I think it's because I've never really put a proper plan before. In order to do this really well, I've always felt you have to be consistent. You have to have a schedule, and my schedule is the minute that I would land on a schedule to keep with, it would immediately be thrown by the wayside because real life got in the way. So this time, I got ahead of that. And I sat down with those people in my life who are influential. I said, hey, listen, I really want to kind of try to do this right. So what kind of schedule can I keep to, and what's reasonable for us to, to support? And so I have that now. So effectively, it's going to be 3 shows or 3 types of shows. One is going to be called Bedtime Stories. That's just me playing video games because I wanted to bring video games back into my life. So Bedtime Stories is going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday between 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just a quick little shot, an hour, 3 hours a week for me to sit down, play some games, shoot the shit with Chad, and you can watch me fail miserably at things like Call of Duty. I'm going to try and keep it RPG focused, except for Call of Duty because I just got that and a bunch of my friends are playing. So I like to be cursed at and trolled by 12-year-olds on the internet. So that's the best way to do that, I find. So that's something that I have to look forward to. So Bedtime Stories, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 10 to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Wednesday is going to be something I'm calling DM's Guild Showcase. And Wednesday is really the community D&D slot. So from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to run community Dungeons & Dragons games. We have our first stream hopefully happening this Wednesday where I've brought some members of the Twitter community. So follow me on Twitter at @ShamBasilGames if you want to get notified when I'm looking for people to kind of be on that and play D&D with me. I've got a great crew starting up on Wednesday. An awesome group of cats. We're all really excited to get going. So we'll see how that goes Wednesday. It probably won't be without its own hiccups, but that'll be the first time in a very long time streaming Dungeons & Dragons on the channel. So that'll be every second Wednesday from 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the Wednesdays in between, I might just put some game prep in there or something. Or I would like to eventually add another game. So we'll see that. And then, of course, Saturday is what we're here to do today, which is Speaking Common. This is kind of the flagship of the schedule. So Speaking Common is going to be every Saturday morning from 11 p.m. or 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to about 2 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is the D&D Weekly News Show. So I'm actually going to be recording the podcast and the video cast for Speaking Common, the weekly D&D news. That's going to be the first hour. between 11:30 and 12:30, or we'll try to keep it from 11:30 to 12:30. And then from 12:30 on, we're going to do just D&D stuff. So I've got some other content that I want to share with you. We'll have some back and forth about rules, mechanics, how games are run, how your games are going. Just talking a little bit more about D&D. And then I'm going to have a significant game prep. So I'm going to actually go into the preparation that I do for those games that I'm running during the week. So that includes digital map making, note-taking, logging, character story arcs, writing story, everything that goes into the nuts and bolts behind the actual game, at least the game that I run. So, hopefully that's something that will be enjoyable to you. And in the future, I'd like to actually build segments into that show where we have the other podcasts that I produce, like Dungeon Masterful, Unearthed Arcana, and the Charisma Check Actual Play podcast. So that's a lot of information to dump. It's kind of me sort of sounding out to what the process is or should look like, how I'm looking to grow it over time. And eventually the Saturday slot should be kind of like a segment show, like a talk show or a late night show kind of thing, but a lot more interactive, a lot more back and forth, and 100%, or we'll say 98% Dungeons and Dragons focused, certainly TTRPG focused. And I hope you all like it. It's like I said, it's a dream of mine to really kind of do this consistently. I do have a 9 to 5. In the age of COVID, it's like 7:30 to 6:30, 7, 8, whatever is required. But I do have a mainstay. That's the point I'm making. So I have another gig. This is really just for fun. So I hope you have fun hanging out with me. In the meantime, what are you playing this week? What video games? What tabletop games? Talk to me about what is keeping you busy in the world of role-playing games, video games, and all things in between. Let me know. When we continue to build this out, I'm looking to bring my regular content programming back to Twitter. Twitter's kind of my mainstay. So if you are watching and you're not with me on Twitter, at Shambazzle Games, go ahead and add me. I'll always follow you back because I love to connect with people in the community who are also like-minded. So that's a policy that I have on Twitter, and we can grow that together as well. Hope your Saturday is off to a roaring start. It's gorgeous here today. We had, I'm broadcasting live from Northern Ontario in Canada. And we actually had snow up until last week. So it's kind of like anything can happen, including that shit. Hopefully no more of that, though. I'm thoroughly done with snow. And I don't want to see it anymore. So it's really sunny and beautiful today. It's nice. I'm looking forward to getting this time in with y'all, but I'm also looking forward to getting outside and hopefully getting some sunshine in the backyard, of course, staying sociably distant. Responsibly socially distant is the words that I'm trying to craft. That's what I meant. All right, I'm going to jump into D&D Weekly News early. So let's check out a new overlay that I produced mere moments before this broadcast started. Here we go with the Dungeons & Dragons Weekly News on Speaking Common with Shambazzle Games. Let's see it. Welcome to the Speaking Common D&D Weekly News for Saturday, April day, whatever day it is in the age of COVID-19, because they're all the same. I feel like my calendar is just one big square and it's just this day in the middle, but no, it's actually April 25th. Yes, I had to cheat. I had to look that up so that I could verify what actual day it is, but don't judge me. Because usually I think most of my listeners are doing so while they're driving in their car on their commute to work, and no one's really doing that anymore. But hopefully you're finding time to enjoy the podcasts. It's been a little while since I've run a cast, actually, and the reason is because I kind of took things back to formula, completely rebuilt how I did things. And now I am looking forward to moving forward with a completely new approach to content. So I teased this out over my Twitter channels a little while ago and said that I'm completely reimagining my approach to content. And effectively what that means is a lot more video. I want to produce a ton more video content. I feel like there's more of an interactive touch to it. You'll see that this is a little bit of a different cast for Speaking Common. Typically I'm standing up with a boom mic in my face and keep it clean, chat. And now we're doing a kind of a neat little overlay. And what that allows me to do is stream live on Saturday morning. So we're coming in live today. And if you want to catch the D&D Weekly Newscast on Speaking Common Live, follow me on your streaming platform of choice. You should be able to find me there, and if not, hit me up on Twitter at Shambazzle Games, and I'll try to correct that too. But tune in live Saturday morning. We have a little bit of I'm going to call it an interactive sandwich. We have IRL, a quick kind of bar-side chat with community before we get into this segment, and then we record the news and the podcast for about an hour, and then we do more interactive chat afterwards and some game prep every Saturday morning. So between 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and 2:30-ish p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll be doing all things Dungeons and Dragons, including the D&D Weekly News podcast. So I hope to see you there. That said, welcome back. If you're joining us, we are found on all of your favorite podcast platforms as well. If you like what you hear in the cast, please do toss me a 5-star review on iTunes, because I could really use your help getting the word out, and that's my only plug today. We're going to dive right into it. It is a bit of a new format, so hopefully we can keep it clean, and this will not crash and burn. We had a lot of really new updates in the community. The www.shambazzlegames.com, my new website, is coming along really well. It's a bit of a slow work in progress because it's a hobbyist thing of mine, but I'm trying to publish at least once every day covering the D&D news. And we had a lot of really great things, and that kind of sets me up to share what I'm going to share with you in the Speaking Common weekly news every week. And that's about to happen right now, so check it out. I want to start with a piece that I wrote about the free content that Wizards of the Coast is now offering during this time of quarantine. So a lot of you have probably heard that Wizards of the Coast have been offering a lot of D&D related content totally free to keep people busy and cope with quarantine in this weird time we're in. And there is a lot of really great stuff. What I didn't realize was that it's actually pretty time limited. So the window of opportunity you have to get out there and get this stuff while it's available for free is pretty small. So I wanted to create a list, a rolling list that I'll try to keep updated. So you'll see that featured on shambazzlegames.com. Go check it out. And that is where I'll keep all the content that's primarily adventure and module focused, because there are a lot of cool things like, coloring pages and other things that they're offering. But for me personally, and I think for most of gamers and what's the word I'm looking for? Adventurers, players, all things in between. Bottled Marrow, thank you very much for the follow. I saw that come up, but I don't have my alerts, so I'm going to fix that real quick. Let me pause here. I'm going to add my alert into this overlay. I did not have it, and I apologize for that, because you deserve recognition, my friend. So I'm going to give it to you personally. While we're breaking, Steph the DM, welcome. Tuning in from the Twitters. Had snow in Massachusetts, right? Do I have that right? MA is Massachusetts? No, that's Massachusetts, right? Snow in the USA, yeah. All of our northern border-lying folks and everything north of me in Canada is just we're getting just teased. I say. All right, let me correct this alert situation here. This is silly. I'm telling you. All right. Now you are laughing. From now on, if you follow me, you will or should get your props. But Bone Marrow. I'm going super dark right away. Bottled Marrow getting a personal shout out from me. Actually, I acknowledge everyone who follows me because I appreciate it so greatly. It doesn't cost a dime and it means the world to me. So if you're new to the channel, new to the chat, whatever medium is your favorite, please do toss me a follow and don't be a stranger. Thanks, Bottled Marrow. Again, I do apologize, but I appreciate you greatly. And thanks for joining today and helping me test out the stream tech. Super good. With the wealth of content that Wizards of the Coast has been offering through these channels, there are a lot of really great things that are coming up for expiry, and there are a couple that I want to shout out really quickly. So if you're listening today is actually the last day to get them. There's a Storm King's Thunder Complete DMs bundle. It may actually be expired, but this thing houses a ton of side quests, full color maps, key maps, and adventures. A lot of work went into it. It usually retails, I think, for like $17 or something like that. And it's available for free now as part of this program that Wizards is running to offer free D&D content during quarantine. Another one that's supposed to be expiring today. I was kind of blown away when I saw this. A complete Castle Ravenloft battle maps pack. So this battle map pack has been crafted to showcase and outline every internal, or 98% apparently, of Castle Ravenloft with detail. It's actually a printable battle map set that you, with tiles that you can print out, but it works beautifully for online play as well. So complete digital set of tile work for every interior room of Castle Ravenloft. And I say, like, if Strahd knew about this, he would probably be pissed. So go get it before it's expired, especially if you're playing online, you're playing in Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds or whatever your favorite weapon of choice is. It might be a great little kind of dungeon crawler to run for your party, for your players. I think you could get a lot of hours out of that, and it's totally free. And those ones are expiring today on Saturday, April 25th. So if it's not too late, go get it at DM's Guild. Again, that article is on the featured tile at shambazelgames.com. And I'll try to keep that updated. So I'll get rid of the ones that are expired, and I'll upload the new ones that are available for download so that you have a rolling log of things that are new. But don't make the mistake I did and sit on it, because I didn't realize that the window was so small for a lot of these. Some of the other ones that are being showcased, they have some specific pieces and modules, adventures for VTTs or virtual tabletops. That's your Roll20, your Fantasy Grounds. Right now, until May 6th, they're actually offering the Lost Mine of Phandelver, the complete campaign, for free, available on D&D Beyond, Roll20, and Fantasy Grounds. So that means if you can go and grab it, you'll have the entire starter kit campaign, which is heralded by a lot of people as one of the best campaigns written for 5e. It's really turnkey. It's a great way to introduce people to the game. And if you are new to the online mechanic of playing the game, which a lot of people are right now, and a lot of people are making or getting the benefit of, because a lot of us are sheltered up, then this is a great way to start with your friends, or if you're a veteran, to get them playing Lost Mines of Phandelver. Maybe they skipped that step and they've always wanted to play it. Anyway, it's free, so it's turnkey. You jump on Roll20, let's say, and you just click, it loads in, kind of prepares the whole campaign for you. And it's a great way to learn how to use Roll20 as well. Even if you just grab it, you don't intend to run it, it's a good way to kind of walk through the content and understand how it works. So definitely encourage you to check that out as well. In addition to that, there is the Sunless Citadel, which was originally it was originally a 2e campaign way back in the late 80s, early 90s. And they rehashed it, or they adapted it for 5e when they released the Yawning Portal Compendium, or Tales from the Yawning Portal. So it's kind of a standalone adventure. It's a dungeon crawler. It's a great little adventure. It's also free for Fantasy Grounds, Roll20, and D&D Beyond. Go check that one out. In addition to that, and in the same vein, there's an adventure called Forge of Fury, which is also from Tales from the Yawning Portal. That's available for free until May 20th, so make sure you go and grab it if you have time. This one was actually launched in 2e back in the day after Sunless Citadel, so there are two dungeon crawlers that can easily work back to back. Sunless Citadel taking players from about level 1 to 3, and then Forge of Fury taking players from 3 to 5. It features kind of an archaic or an age-old grievance between a dwarven kin, dwarven hierarchy, and their hated kind of orc kind and troll kind, as they have belabored and taken over the dwarven stronghold of Kundrakar, which is a subterranean dwarven stronghold, very like Moradin type feel. So there's some really fun stuff there that you can get in with your players completely free of charge that Wizards is offering through this free content during quarantine. So don't miss out on that. The aside from the virtual tabletop stuff, those are kind of like digital specific content pieces that are available to you right now, and you still have a bit more of a window. The others are ones that are available through DM's Guild or Adventurers League content, and these ones don't have an end state, so you have a little bit more time on these, but still really great adventures. If you're not familiar with Adventurers League, there's no, you don't have to play it Adventurers League style. They're really just great piecemeal adventures that you can run or implant into any campaign, or import into your own campaign, treat them how you like. kind of get you ahead of your planning, or if you know you're behind on planning for your session, you can grab one of these, just bring it in as a little great side quest. It'll be a lot of fun for your players and be super easy for you as a GM to make sure that you have stuff kind of ready made if you need something like that. I definitely intend to use it. Just because it's Adventurers League content or an Adventurers League DMs Guild published doesn't mean it has to be for Adventurers League play. And like I say, if you're not familiar with Adventurers League, it's really just it's a mechanic for structured play, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can just use it for your own campaign, but it just means that this adventure is legal and recognized by Adventurers League if you want to use it for structured play too. So, with that in mind, there are a few adventures that are available to you. I've organized them by levels. So there are 2 that are intended for levels 1 to 4. One of them is Outlaws of the Iron Root. A lot of these roll up into the Tyranny of Dragons campaign, but again, they don't have to bring that campaign into it or lead into that campaign. They were launched in and around the same time as Tyranny of Dragons was being launched. So Outlaws of the Iron Root is available for you, levels 1 to 4, where players have to fend off a band of ruffians that are led by a dragonborn sorcerer as the Cult of the Dragon are starting to gain their roots in their end goal of Tyranny of Dragons. I won't spoil it for you if you want to look into that, but if you're familiar with the campaign, then you'll know what I'm talking about there. The second one available is Tales Trees Tell, and that's also geared towards levels 1 to 4, so you can lead one into the other very easily and pretty much have almost like a Lost Mines of Phandelver length micro campaign there for your players too. That's also set near Flan, where most of the action takes place for Tyranny of Dragons, where adventurers have to, it's a little bit more of a diplomacy play where you're trying to broker the peace between the denizens of Flan and the area, which is fairly embattled and kind of being scrutinized for takeover by a number of different factions, and the elves of the Quivering Forest, which is nearby. So there's a lot of tension and diplomatic tension there that the players have to navigate. So it takes it from something that's a little bit more combat oriented to something that's a little bit more political intrigue oriented. Shake it up a little bit for you. When your players reach level 4 to 5, you have a couple of options in this free set of content too. One of them's a little bit outside of the grain. We'll call it, it's the Infernal Machine Rebuild. You might be familiar with it. You may have heard of it. Wizards had launched or announced during their Extra Life series, the charity series that they were releasing, Infernal Machine Rebuild. So while this one is technically offered in the suite of free content in the same sweep that Wizards is doing, this is really still a pay what you want or pay what you will offering. So if you go to look at this one in DM's Guild, you'll actually see a pay box there. You can just put 0 in there and grab it for free. Totally fine. They're encouraging you to do that. But formerly, when it was originally launched, I think it was in February or January, February at some point, it was part of the Extra Life series. Anyway, this adventure takes characters around a jaunt through various locations in the or various iconic locations in the Forgotten Realms, including the Tomb of Horrors. There's a Lost Temple of Moloch, which is an iconic location in the realms, and a number of different places. It's kind of like a globetrotter. An amazing race, if you will. It's like the Toril amazing race, and you're tasked with finding these ancient artifacts in the interest of or preventing or creating an infernal war machine. So there's a really cool little arc there. It kind of came out around the time when Baldur's Gate: Descent into Avernus was really picking up steam, no pun intended, and that was the first introduction of some of these vehicle-based interactions with 5e D&D. Beyond that, there's another adventure that is more closely tied to Tyranny of Dragons called Tyranny in Flan, again taking place in the Flan area, but you can really relocate these adventures wherever you need them to be or want them to be in the Forgotten Realms with a little bit of knowledge about the geography. And while this one was originally designed to supplement Tyranny of Dragons, in this case, the players are actually up against the Cult of the Dragon face-to-face as they continue to vie for the safety of Flan and the security of the Pool of Radiance you may have heard of, especially if you're a fan of old-school D&D, which lies underneath the region of Flan, which radiates this mystical power. And this is where they're actually becoming closer to the plot that's being built by a green dragon known as Vorgan Sharax. And he is, or the maimed Virulence, which is kind of the name of the sub name of the adventure. So they're going to get their first brush with a draconic death perhaps in that one, so it kind of ups the stakes a little bit. And then the one that they just launched this week or announced this week is called Dark Pyramid of Sorcerer's Isle. It's a level 5 to 10 adventures, just like the former Tyranny and Flan. Tyranny and Flan. Both of these are adventures designed for levels 5 to 10 players. And the Dark Pyramid of Sorcerer's Isle is a little bit of a different flavor. I'd be excited to try this one myself. It actually takes players to Sorcerer's Isle to brave the ruins of an abandoned mystical and mythical magic infused structure that's also being warred over between the Red Wizards of Thay and the treacherous villainy that they're known for, a very powerful, very dangerous faction in the Forgotten Realms. And of course the Cult of Dragon that features so heavily in the Tyranny of Dragons campaign, or the Tyranny of Dragons officially published campaign. So I didn't really have much to add beyond that. I think it's a really great thing that Wizards is doing. They're trying to make some of this available. A lot of it is DM's Guild content, which is great. Typically, what I love about DM's Guild is it showcases third-party producers, publishers. So at least it's going to get people into the system. While that said, these are official Wizards of the Coast or D&D publications, but they do feature a lot of third-party authors and community authors who are doing really great work in this space. So go out, get invested, and get introduced to some of the great third-party content that's available on DM's Guild. Personally, I'm a big fan of the adventure modules and the story hooks and things like that, some of those resources. I don't go too heavy personally into things that are mechanic-based because I don't do a lot of third-party homebrew ruling in my games. I like the mechanics the way they are. I want my players to know that the game that they're expecting to play is the game that I'm playing. So I don't bring in a lot of third-party rules changing content, but I am a big fan of the adventures, the quests, the hooks, and the lore, because that's just fun things for your players to do with the mechanics that are outlined for them in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. So encourage you to check it out. ShamBasilGames.com, right on the front page, you'll see that master list. I'll keep it updated every day, every week. And it can be your go-to place to know and find out when this free stuff is coming up. And I'll have a little summary about what each one is, so you can take a look at it and decide, pick and choose what you want to go, and just click right through and download it. Super easy. So don't miss out on that opportunity. I missed out on a lot of the earlier stuff because I thought, you know what, I can go back and I'll just get it later. But some of them do time out, and I've missed the boat on some really great modules that are otherwise, $18, $20, $30 or more. So yeah, don't miss that. Don't miss your shot. I am not throwing away my shot, and you shouldn't either. This week, Unearthed Arcana, Wizards released, and I'll use the term released loosely, a 5th edition supplement for Unearthed Arcana. It's a playtest options for Psionics. And the reason I use the term released loosely is because it was really just a republishing of a former release of Psionics subclass options that they had done a couple of months ago. So while those options are pretty neat, it was really just kind of an updated version of that. So it wasn't really a new Unearthed Arcana release. But it was still interesting, and they did call to some things that I think had piqued the interest of some 2E and 1E players who have been looking for Psionics to kind of make a return or make a showing in 5E D&D. So they had a couple of things that were noticeably different. Was the treatment of psionics, and they actually called out psionics as something that is different than magic. And this is the first time they really made that distinction, which is exciting for me because realistically, give you a little bit of context, psionics in D&D is the telepathic discipline to extract a whole new library of spell-like supernatural abilities, telekinesis, telepathy, and manipulation using the powers of the mind. And there's this sort of existential component to it where it transcends external influences like magic and sorcery do. So it's something that's really powered and fueled from within. There was like a birthright aspect of it. There's a chance that characters of a certain attribute, I believe intelligence, in fact, had a greater chance to be psionic or have the ability to manifest psionic tendencies. So it was this really kind of cool nuanced mechanic that was totally outside of anything else in the system. And it sounds like they're trying to find the happy medium there. The very fact that they've updated this piece rather than just trying to push psionics as like a 5e spell mechanic shows me that they might actually be on the right path, and I'm hopeful for that. That gives me some optimism around psionics for 5e. So when we hear, if you've heard them talk about psionics, it's probably been in the sense of there's a little bit of play there in Eberron, and there is a big component of psionics with the Illithid or Mind Flayers, which feature heavily in the announced and upcoming Baldur's Gate 3 video game release. So the story is kind of coming around psionics, and I think Wizards effectively has to answer that. But no conversation about psionics in 5e is complete without somebody mentioning Dark Sun. So the Dark Sun campaign setting is the burnt desert setting of Athas, and it's a really cool, guttural, very Mad Maxy, gladiator-based raw setting that had a lot of fans in early editions of Dungeons and Dragons, and up to and including 4th edition even had a callback to Dark Sun. So myself included, a big fan of the setting. It's just a welcome change from your hack and slash fantasy, woods and elves and magic swords, which I love greatly, and dragons and all that good stuff. But it's nice to change it up once in a while, and I think Dark Sun represented that for a lot of players. So when psionics is such a big component of Dark Sun, because magic had basically become almost non-existent, so psionic powers are manifesting a little bit more, and tends to be a bit more of a low magic setting, with the exception of psionics. So because psionics and psionic mechanics are so heavily relevant and valued in the Dark Sun settings, usually whenever one is mentioned, the others followed closely behind. So a lot of fans of that setting and in the D&D sphere in general are patiently waiting for some kind of news about Dark Sun potentially coming to 5e. So I'm going to put that on pause for a second. We'll come back to it. But more specifically, they talked about the fighter, the Psi Knight, which is a martial adept with special telekinetic capabilities in this new release, or the update to the current release of psionic subclasses for 5e D&D. The Rogue Soul Knife, you might remember, sounds like a really great class, actually. It's like an assassin flavoring of Rogue with psionic talents, self-attack buffs. And the Sorcerer, Psionic Soul, which is akin to like your Draconic Magic or Wild Magic Sorceress. So Psionic Soul is a sorceress origin for a sorcerer that is focused on those telekinetic, mind-powered benefits and those spell-like effects that can go with it. So there is also a small collection of spells that are available, or spell-like effects that seem to replicate psionic-type effects for Bard, Sorcerer, Warlock, and Wizard in there. So that's in the recent Unearthed Arcana. I was a little bit disappointed when I saw it originally, because it was just kind of a republishing of the previously published psionics subclasses from Wizards. But when I looked a little bit further, and actually I caught an article from Bleeding Cool, from Comic Book, which is another outlet that I really enjoy. And they actually called out that Athas was mentioned a number of times in the piece. So there was this conversation of Dark Sun again bubbling to the surface, and like I mentioned, Athas is the world in which Dark Sun effectively revolves around, no pun intended. So I went back at it, and I looked for these mentions. There were only 3 mentions of Athas in the piece, but enough to really kind of consider it. So specifically in the Psi Knight entry, they said, in the world of Athas, renowned gladiators in the arenas of the Sorcerer Kings are often Psi Knights, and the Sorcerer Kings are kind of these, like the bad guys of Athas who actually rule the world, more or less, to really give you a quick 411. In the Soul Knife entry, they said, and in the world of Athas, a Sorcerer King often turns to a Soul Knife to eliminate an enemy. And then finally, in the Psionic Soul Sorcerer's origin, they said, and in Athas, more sorcerers are born with a psionic soul than with any other source of power. So, of course, again, we had this conversation of Dark Sun bubbling to the surface, because now they were actually actively mentioning Athas, the world, and the Dark Sun setting. So, now, to be fair and objective, they also mention Eberron. They also mention other lore cues like the Illithid, the Mind Flayers, and other things that'll resonate with D&D players of a particular vintage, I'll say. But players like myself who are really pining for Dark Sun to come to the fray. It doesn't take much to get us excited when we see these types of mentions in works that are released officially by Wizards of the Coast. So we'll keep our fingers crossed optimistically. I think for me, the key is I really do want them to treat it like a separate mechanic. I was a little disheartened in the early stages when it started to seem like psionics were going to be rolled up as another spell mechanic or a subset of spells, or worse, like a school of magic. But the other thing that I noticed in this one is that they've actually removed the mention of wizards entirely, which had existed in the previous release. So they're really making that distinction that psionics is not magic, even though it has magic or spell-like effects. And they've mentioned a couple of times in the publication that sometimes psionics are just psionics, and sometimes psionics have magic-like effects, but they've intentionally pulled out the wizard options from there, so they're clearly drawing a line in the sand, again, no pun intended, to really differentiate between what psionics is and perhaps what it isn't in 5e. So to me, that might cue that they're actually going to handle it in a way that I would hope they would, which is treating psionics as its own mechanic, as its own subset of the rules with different systems and different checks and different capabilities, and not be inherently tied to an already existing class or subclass. We'll look to go a little bit deeper on Dark Sun, the world, and talk about the setting. I know it's not the only one that a lot of people are looking forward to. You'll often hear Spelljammer in the same breath. You'll often hear conversations about oh geez, what else is that? Like Greyhawk, like an official Greyhawk, although Wizards seem to be leaning more to melding Greyhawk into the Forgotten Realms setting. So they're fans of a lot of different lore settings and campaign settings that people are just waiting for. Of course, we just got Eberron officially. We have a lot of stuff coming down the pipe from the Magic the Gathering multiplane setting like Ravnica, and we have Theros coming soon. So, and we have completely new settings that are coming out of the woodwork, like Wildmount and Matt Mercer's Exandria campaign setting. So hopefully, I think they've showcased some of the peripheral, the tertiary environments that exist around D&D 5e, and I really do hope that whatever way they go, that the next officially published campaign setting or compendium has something to do with one of the traditional or classic settings that we're really kind of waiting for. And beyond that, we can only hope and keep our fingers crossed, so to speak. Hope y'all are doing well. We're about halfway through the news. We'll finish this up, and then we'll get back to some back and forth. So if you have any questions or comments, don't hesitate to ask. Please let me know in chat, and I will be happy to answer in between, giving my voice a rest and drinking water. Excuse me. Next up on the D&D Weekly News, Dungeons & Dragons has, of course, enjoyed a significant rise in popularity. And even now with people being quarantined or isolated, it just seems to be a bit of a match made in heaven, if we can look for a silver lining in a situation such as the one we're facing today. It just makes sense that people are flocking to the game in a way to keep occupied, to keep entertained, and maybe discover something new, especially in an online format. So I'm a bit of a data junkie, and I kind of scoured the web a little bit for some specific and some helpful statistics to really showcase and maybe even myth bust a little bit some of the conversations out there around where D&D 5e currently sits in the market. Without doubt, 5e D&D is probably one of the most popular editions ever produced to date. There are a lot of people who will argue that, and usually they're the type who are reasonably committed to a particular edition. I've never been one to say my edition or the highway. It's all D&D to me, man. And I love 2E and I'm thoroughly in love with 5e because it's what brought me back to D&D. So it doesn't invalidate any of that, but there are a lot of people who are really invested in and almost to a point aggressive when it comes to defending their chosen edition. But I think it always serves to keep an open mind and pay attention to the facts around it. Now, that said, it's a lot easier for us to draw statistics and generate data today than it was, let's say, in the 80s when some of the earlier versions of Dungeons and Dragons were out. So it's not really, fair to say to levy the wealth of stats and data that we have today against a time when maybe we didn't have that. So, but to focus on the stats that we do have today, particularly around 5e D&D, stats that were pulled from, let me see here. Make sure I quote my sources correctly. We had Bleeding Cool actually published a really great piece that showed that the average player base, the average player is 28 years old for 5e D&D or D&D today, and 30 to 45-year-olds making up about 48% of the total player base and up. So I think that really speaks to the fact that, hey, there are still, like, you look at people who play D&D in the late 80s, early 80s, and earlier, they're still playing today, and it's rare to see a hobby or a game have that kind of longevity. So I think that's really cool. It just shows that, like, there are few things that we can enjoy today that bridge the gap of generations that thoroughly and that comprehensively. And more you hear stories of people playing games with their kids or starting up clubs at school. And you have, 30, 40, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds and above who are equally excited about something, the same thing that, your tweens, your early teenagers, your young adults are equally excited about. So I think it's a win anytime we can find common ground between those generations. And I think that's something to celebrate, not be scoffed at. So roughly 16,000 campaigns were launched over Twitch and YouTube in 2019. We have consumed over 146 million hours of D&D content over sharing and streaming media services in 2019 alone. And around 50,000 users have joined the hobby in the past month. This was during the month of March, which was 25% increase over previous months. So like I said, a lot of people literally flocking to the table, both tangible and virtual. We had some other stats to speak to the growth of 5e currently and the growing population and the growing popularity of Dungeons and Dragons. Post 5e launch sales rocketed from 41% from 2014 to 2017, and then another 52% in 2018 alone. So really kind of a hot spot between 2017 to 2019 and into 2020. A lot more players coming into the fold with 5e. On Roll20 alone, of course, a lot of people are moving to virtual tabletop settings. Some Roll20 stats that they had released in their OR report a couple of months ago showed a comparison of all campaigns across Roll20, showed D&D 5e at about 52% of all campaigns, and 54% of all users on the platform are playing D&D 5th edition for 2019. Wizards of the Coast estimates the player base has broken over 40 million players worldwide at this point, and I actually think the number is a little bit higher than that. I've seen that reported between 40 and 50 million. So I guess at that level, like give or take 10 million, not a big deal. Although if it were dollars, I would take the Deviants, and that 10 million would actually be a lot of money for me. Dungeons & Dragons was one of the only brands that reported growth for Hasbro in 2019. So in 2019, in their recent earnings report, Hasbro reported an actual drop of 19% growth in their own brands. So they'd actually dipped by almost 20% their own brands. And Dungeons & Dragons was the only owned brand that showed growth in that reporting period. Now, a lot of folks immediately will say, well, what about Magic the Gathering? There's no way, blah, blah, blah. You have to keep in mind, Magic the Gathering is not an owned brand for Hasbro. Magic the Gathering, MTG, their card game products are a franchise brand, so they don't actually calculate them in the same way. They do report them in their earnings report, but to put it simply, Hasbro doesn't own Magic the Gathering the way that they own Dungeons & Dragons and Wizards of the Coast. So that's the differentiation there. Absolutely, if we throw MTG in the mix there, then MTG definitely had a shit ton of growth. Like, they're off the charts by comparison to these other own franchises, but they don't really, it's not an apples to apples comparison. So like I said, there are always people who are going to scream, like, it's not 2E, but that's okay. I played 2E as well, and it was great. But I don't get, offended because people like 5E, and you shouldn't neither. And that is a wrap on a lot of the things that I covered in the news today. Like I said, the big one for me this week, if you do anything with this, get over to that article, shambazelgames.com. Click on the master list of free content available from Wizards of the Coast. Do yourself a favor and add it to your library. Totally free. Go download it. I mean, keep the stream up because I would love to have you stay with me. But at some point or on the side, just open another little browser. I don't care if you multitask. Add that ish to your library. You will not be sorry you did. And that's a wrap for D&D Weekly News here on the Speaking Comment Podcast. A little bit lighter this week as we start to re-enter the contentosphere. And you can find me at dndnews.libsyn.com or check it out on shambazelgames.com. All the links are there as well under our D&D podcasts. And if you like it, please do throw me a subscribe on your platform of choice. If you really liked it, a 5-star review will help me get the word out and share the D&D news with more people every darn week. Thanks for hanging out. That is about a wrap for the newscast. So that's kind of how that's going to go every week. I'm going to spend 1 hour just recording it. Then I'm going to pull that out for the podcast. And now we get back to interaction. Bottled Marrow, thanks for the list of free stuff. Very helpful. That is music to my heart. That's all I want to do is produce content that helps other people do things. And I do that daily. So I have a daily news piece on my website. Every single day I'll publish something that's newsworthy from the D&D sphere and hopefully some information that helps you either as a gamer, player, anything. So yeah, thank you. I'm glad to hear that it's helpful. That's all I strive for, really. I don't care if like one person visits it or 1 million people visit it. As long as somebody gets some use out of it, that's a win for me, my friend. How's everyone else doing out there? If you're just joining us, please do throw me a follow on your platform of choice. Say hello in chat because it's all about the interaction. That news this week was 2,497 words. I like to write. What can I say? I have a couple of other content pieces that I'm going to produce as well, and this is all part of building content for the site. And like I said, I publish Dungeons and Dragons content every day on my Twitter channel at Shambazel Games. So I have a couple of other pieces that I want to bring in the fold. We're going to start to record those today, so you're more than welcome to stick around, join in, ask me any questions. These are all very interactive pieces, so I'd love to have your feedback on it. So I'm just going to do a quick recording here for the community video and some of the changes. Maybe you've heard them if you've been in the channel already this morning, but it might be news. So if you do find it helpful, here we go. Welcome to Shambazel Games. We're taking a whole new approach to content starting today, and this is the first live stream on Saturday, so I hope you join me on your platform of choice. Typically, I'm found around the Twitch area, twitch.tv/Shambazel Games. Of course, follow me here on Twitter at Shambazel Games for daily Dungeons and Dragons content and lots of great discussions and lots of great discussion with this amazing community that we have. We have all new episodes of the Charisma Check actual play coming out, and a return to my other podcasts, including Dungeon Masterful, where I'm going to be interviewing other DMs, players, and producers in the Twitter community. So that's a one-on-one intimate interview where you can get to know the people in our community a little bit better. Of course, we have Unearthed Arcana, which is a narration of the current release of playtest material from Wizards of the Coast with Unearthed Arcana. And finally, the Speaking Common weekly Dungeons and Dragons newscast, which we produce live every Saturday and then release once a week on Sunday afternoon. So be sure to check us out there. In addition to that, we have a whole new focus on video content coming down the pipe with brand new segments like Dungeons and Dragons 5e Rule Solution, Sage Advice Unfurled, and get to know a little bit more about the game that we love to play. I have a renewed focus now on Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok as well. You can find me everywhere around the Twitchiverse or you can find me everywhere around the web at Shambazel Games. And of course, everything and anything goes to my website at shambazelgames.com. So I hope to see you there on your weapon of choice, but don't be a stranger. Happy gaming, be good to one another. We'll see you right here on Shambazel Games. That's my pitch. That's my blurb. What did you think? Is it, does that work? You guys get my elevator pitch. Seen it all in real time. Behind the scenes. Let's get into some D&D stuff. So this is one out for you guys. I'm also going to talk basically my response to some of these too. So the first segment we're going to produce is called Question of the Day. So one of the questions that I want to field to the community this week is, what do you do when a player justifies poor behavior at the table, especially with the age-old, it's what my character would do, or what I like to call alignment armor? I'm fortunate enough to say that this has happened infrequently at my table, but as is my approach with this and any case where you might have friction or some difficult conversations to have with players in your game, it's all about open communication early and keeping it one-on-one. So the first thing that I would do is probably separate the player, find an opportunity to speak with them one-on-one outside of the table. Nobody likes to be lit up in front of their friends, so try and avoid tackling it in the moment. But head it off as soon as you see it. So when that behavior kind of begins, there are a few pieces that are important in tackling this well. So one is session 0, where you set the precedent for what kind of table culture you want and how you want your players to interact with one another and the type of teamwork you expect, or whether you allow sort of chaotic player-on-player friction or anything like that, so that everyone knows what they're getting into right from the get-go. Then during the game, if you see some behavior that's ulterior to that, then you have the platform to take it offside and deal with that player one-on-one and say, listen, I know that you're trying to have fun, so is everybody else, but the fun of one individual at the table can't compromise the fun of everyone else as a whole. Ask them how you can together agree on a solution for it, and hopefully that will head off that behavior. And then I typically have a 3-strike rule. So if it continues, we have the conversation again. If it continues again, then the third conversation might be about whether or not this table and this campaign, this culture is a fit for them, or if there's another game that might be better suited for. Another question I had for players, or I wanted to feel for people, was have you ever had a player shift? Actually, let me pause there. So I don't know if anybody has that kind of experience, or if you've run into that at your table. Happy to hear from anyone in chat too that might have something to offer as well. It's difficult, right? Because I mean, they're your friends typically at the end of the day. In some cases, it might be, you might have people who are strangers to your table who maybe it's a pickup game. But that really comes down to integrity at the end of the day. I think everybody has a part to play in that. And friendships are important. You don't want to run the risk of taking a torch to long-standing or important real-life relationships over any game, D&D, video games, or otherwise. Doesn't matter. Nobody really wants to be in that kind of awkward situation. So you don't want to run the risk of jeopardizing those friendships, those relationships. And the only thing that people enjoy less than being called out in front of their friends is sitting around and watching their friends argue with the DM. Am I right? I've been there. I've been on both sides of that conversation. But I'm really new to D&D, so I haven't run a game yet or played. But yeah, it'd be real difficult. Yeah, it's like anything, right? I mean, you might be new to D&D, but I'm sure you're not new to the prospect of, being an observer or having observers in a weird argument between two friends, right? There's nothing fun about it. So, Bottle, tell me, so what got you interested in Dungeons and Dragons, and what brought you here today? So you haven't run a game or played in D&D. I'm excited for you. Yeah, what piqued your interest? What got you interested in it in the first place? Josh, hi, welcome. How's it going? Welcome back. You know what? We're going to switch to the bar for this because I think this is cool. We're kind of done with the news now. So let's head back to the bar and have a conversation, because that's what we're doing. We're conversating. I'll see you at the Wood. And I have to find a better way to say that too, clearly. I'll see you at the wood. If you're going to join me regularly, you can expect many little sound bites like that, where I often say things and then immediately regret them after. But thankfully, they're on the internet forever. And that's something to look forward to. Joshua joining us, the Schwa coming in hot. What's up, my brother? Balmer, I think a friend told me about Critical Role, so I watched some of that and have been checking out some different content around the web. Very nice, very nice. It's an exciting journey. Josh, you love this screen? Like I said, I'm trying to bring the bar to you guys. I know we can't get to the bar these days. I'm trying to bring it to you folks. Yeah, Critical Role has done tremendous things for the game, Bottle, and it's a great. I blew through season 1, really enjoyed it. I think they're very charismatic. They're easy to like folks. I don't love all of it. Like I have my opinions, but they're opinions. What can't be argued is the level of influence that they've had, certainly. I think the best thing they did and my favorite move that they made was breaking away from GNS and doing their own thing. Most of the gripes that I had with Critical Role in the early days were related to GNS and how they were handling the show. Loved Critical Role. I think Matt Mercer's a tremendous guy. Just honest, genuine. Yeah, and my wife loves it too. It got her into it too, so I thank them for that, because that has made my life with Dungeons & Dragons much easier. If you have a significant other or someone else in your life who's also interested in it, and as a general rule, the same things or similar things as you are, it makes it a lot easier to enjoy those things, I would say. Would you agree? Grab a drink, sit up to the bar, take a stool. Yeah, that's a great entry, Bottle Marrow, and keep an eye out, because that's I like to think most folks are wired like I am, where we get really excited when people are new to it. It's you won't always find that, but I think for the most part that's the way it is in the community, especially on Twitter. Where we genuinely get excited when we hear other people are introducing themselves or being introduced to the game. So especially people who are inclined to run or DM, it's always fun when you have new people come in. And one of the things that I want to do in community is have a campaign that's just focused on new players, so we can create a safe kind of game environment where people can learn and make mistakes and not feel weird about getting into it, I guess, because I find new players often have a perspective or perception that when they play with people who have played before, that like they don't do it well or right, or like they're not good at it. I'll put it that way. And there's no good at D&D. It's all in your imagination. There's no more being good at D&D than there is being good at thinking about things or being imaginative. And sure, some people are more imaginative than others, but if you've ever daydreamed, then you've already got most of the tools that you need to play D&D. So, yeah, I'm excited for you. Please stick around and let us know how your first impression goes. That'll be fun for all of us, I think. And maybe at some point we'll get you in on a new player game too. That would be fun also. I'd love that. Bottom Mary, yeah, I've been trying to DM a small game for my also noob friend, then hopefully bring in a couple more friends to play when we achieve some kind of flow. I think that's a perfect way to handle it. Keep it safe and easy, low judgment, low pressure, and then slowly add to it as you become more comfortable. Definitely. Are you using like Roll20 or an online medium for it? Josh, heard you get on topic about player solutions for rough situations while you're waiting for chat. Gotcha. In all 30 years, you only had to ban 2 players. Have one sit-down conversation. You left a long time FLGS, which is a friendly local game store. Location due to infringement on your own wizards and operating procedures. Other than that, easy to solve issues. Good. It's important to have the ability to deal with the situations, but it's equally important that they don't happen that often, right? Just popped in, I'll catch up. Yeah, take your time, Josh. We're here. You be using Roll20? Good stuff, Bottled. Well, then definitely grab that. As I mentioned earlier in the news, Lost Mine of Phandelver was originally, it's available for free now, as you heard. So definitely check that out on Roll20, because it'll do a lot of the work for you, and it's a great way to learn. Just thumb through the campaign. Interestingly enough, before that came up, one of my game prep things that I want to do is build Lost Mine of Phandelver in Roll20. So keep an eye out for that, because I'll be starting to work on that, and that'll give you some insight too. I love that campaign because it's a great first introduction for players. It's got like all the great core tenets, dungeon delving, combat, role play, exploration that make Dungeons and Dragons great. So Lost Mines of Phandelver is a really great campaign. It's there for you. It's ready made, and that's available. I think I said until May 20th. It might be May 6th, but I'm not sure what happens with Roll20 when you have a piece of content that expires. I don't know if it just disappears or if as long as you get it in that window, you can use it. I'm not sure, but check that out, Bottle, for sure. Lost Mines of Phandelver. It follows the story of a band of dwarven brothers who have uncovered a long-lost fabled mine, and they are seeking the legendary power that resides within it. But along the way, there are a lot of other factions who have similar interests in the same power, and they all kind of vie for it around it, and it takes you through the Sword Coast around a city called Neverwinter and the Neverwinter Woods in the area, and then, of course, Phandalin, which is a frontier town near the mine itself. And there's a whole bunch of little adventure pockets, and it's just a really great recipe for your first time at D&D. Josh, I actually have a little... excuse me, I actually have a table etiquette and play agreement that helps some of those issues 99% of the time. Yeah, that's like what we're talking about with Session 0, right? That's why it's so important to cover that stuff off. Another question for you today that I would like to field the tremendous Dungeons and Dragons community here. Have you ever had a player shift in alignment throughout the adventure? Why and what were some of the effects of their change? My approach to alignment is, as many of you know, that alignment is really an effect of your moral choices and the effects that those choices have throughout the game. Of course, there are some mechanics in the game that require alignment to feature, like certain equipment that's geared towards lawful players or certain spell effects that are geared towards evil players or the like. But when it comes to player alignment specifically, I don't like to see my players tied into a certain way, and I also don't like to see them leverage it as plot armor to do whatever they want. Just like we change over time in our lives based on our decisions and our moral leanings, so too can and should your players make those changes. So what's your take on how alignment features in your game? Josh just got off chat with a new group, new DM setup for your game. They're running later today. Nice. A new game is always exciting to me. Now I love my long-standing campaigns. Of course, there are a few things that provide the emotional attachment that a good long, like years-long running campaign and the relationships that are built in those campaigns can provide. But the excitement, like new game excitement and Session 0 and first session excitement is also pretty special and rare, I think. Yeah. What are you playing on, Josh? And is this for your system? Josh, by the way, has done a tremendous amount of work in a great game system called a contingency system. And it is like mind-blowing the amount of work that and the progress that he's put into it. So I hope we see that hit the market at some point, because you deserve it. You deserve the success. If you're just joining us, you're new to the stream, please do toss me a follow. Costs $0, but means the world to me. And I'm all about the interaction. I'm all about the engagement. So chat. Don't be shy. Say hello when you jump in. Say goodbye when you leave. It'll warm my heart. And I'll continue to show up for you week after week and give you the best content that I know how. So if you haven't done so yet, hit the follow button. Stay in the bar. There's a lot of work in progress happening around here too. So I've got a lot more overlays, a lot more show refinements. I have a show opener that I'm working on that I'm really excited about. It's a cool, slick motion animation sequence. Josh, they get so worried you usually stay on standby, so they have questions and need to sit in. Yeah, it's for their game. Help build their world and the world engines. They may need more. I see. So are you in the game, or are you just kind of consulting on the setup? All right. Brand new question of the day. Let's shift up the questions a little bit here. Do you allow evil characters in your game? Sticking with the alignment theme this week, do you allow your players to play evil alignment? And what are some of the benefits or challenges that you've had with allowing players to do that? For me, I found I typically, with new players particularly, I don't allow evil alignments. I find that more often than not, evil alignment is used as an excuse to kind of be a jerk. And I try to avoid that at my table. But it is also intriguing to have a veteran player or player who's comfortable doing so to play an evil character in a very creative way to have to work then in a team with a number of other people. So my core tenet in game is that players have to work as a team. If I have a player who's well enough equipped or understands things enough to intelligently and creatively play even a lawful evil character in a way that forces them to work with people and befriend people, then I would allow it. But it's really going to be case to case, and it has to not result in asshattery or jerkedness at my table. What's your take on evil alignments? Consultation, teach, and train. That's very cool, man. That's nice. You're like a D&D consultant. Is most of your stuff with contingency, is it still D&D as well? Is it like an overlay kind of thing, a set of mechanics that are complementary to D&D, or is it a totally different system altogether? Just I flex alignment situationally. I've run games for groups that have had all alignments. The core sits, the group at its base is working towards a goal. Yeah, absolutely. It's really going to depend on the player for me, right? Some players are mature enough, and by mature enough, I mean like they're versed enough to be able to make it work. And with some players, it can just be a disaster. So, but definitely allow it in some campaign circumstances. I think in the campaign you're writing, there would be an opportunity to play an evil character. You're writing a campaign out of the gate. Good on you. That's ambitious. I love it. Because you were saying that you're new to the game, right? So you're just starting and you're writing a campaign. That's great. Yeah, that's an alternative too. That's a really good item to consider as well, Bottled. Because if you're running an evil campaign, would be a lot of fun to run too. Sometimes people just want to scratch that itch, you know. So there's always an opportunity to run an evil campaign, build like these dark machinations, or even just some kind of comedic bumbling group of villains, and just let your players have fun being badasses, being jerks, because that's part of the game they're in, right? So I think there's a lot of merit for evil campaigns as well. Yeah, I love writing and being creative, so I'm giving it a go. Folks, we have a dungeon master in the making, if ever I've heard one. Bottled, you're on a slipstream to DM hood, my friend, and welcome. It's a great corner of the world. So, Josh, you get to select all if you wish. Okay, gotcha. Based on the system, right? Contingency. Oh, sorry, I missed that. Let me start over. Contingency is three parts: teach and train, system stacking, and system agnostic. Okay, you get to select all if you wish. So there's a training component to contingency. That's freaking cool. I like that. You're welcome, Bottled. You're welcome. The world needs more DMs and GMs. Absolutely. I've ran private games for hire with full evil character roster. Nice. Do you get work often as a DM, a paid DM or paid GM? Old Ninja, welcome to the fray, Old Ninja. Nice to have you on board. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining me on your platform of force. Wait a second, sorry, let me word that. Thank you for joining me on your platform of choice this fine Saturday afternoon. See, Old, I got so excited when you joined chat that I forgot how to word good. You did that to me. If you're new to this stream, please do throw me a follow. I'd love to have you on board. We're all about audience interaction, so we have lots of great conversations about D&D. Old, are you new to the hobby? Have you played D&D before? What brought you into the fray today? And what is that? Is that a light bulb? I can't see that little emote. Will it tell me if I hover over it? Ooh. Yeah. Good to have you. Good to have you. The combo, the Dungeons and the Dragons chat is kicking into full steam. Welcome aboard. Sometimes I sing as well. I hope that's okay. Josh often is a little less now. Gotcha for paid DM engagements. Gotcha. I have been getting locked into a few larger projects in roaming mobile, D&D or DM and FLGS nature events. You are living the life, my man. It's a takeout coffee cup. Oh, I see. Gotcha. Yes. Cheers. I got mon café. Sweet. I love coffee. It's great. Do you have coffee in your D&D games? That's a good question. It always comes up, and invariably every time somebody has a coffee in one of my games, they always stop and they're like, do we have coffee? I'm like, there's always coffee. There's always coffee in every setting I run. Full stop. I will never deprive people, real, living, or fictitious, of their much needed Java. Let's pose another question to the community today. Do you roll behind a screen or do you roll out in the open, and why? I have historically always rolled behind a DM screen, and I don't even really know why. A lot of times I'll show my players, especially if the rolls are exceptionally like crazy, because I'm I'm kind of like, look guys, like it's right here. I don't fudge rolls. I don't change things like that. I don't push or nudge rolls. But I like the intrigue and mystery of rolling incognito. So I've always kind of stuck with that. That said, I would have no qualms about rolling out in the open. And I know a lot of players who do actually actively roll in front of everybody. I think it adds some tension. And I don't know, though. There is like, it really does put your fate in the dice and everyone's fate, even as a DM. I think there's merit to that because often as DMs, I feel like we get blamed for things a lot when bad things happen. So I would have no problem rolling in front of the screen, but today I just roll behind it because I don't know. I like to keep some secrets. How about you? Do you roll in front of, behind the screen, a little bit of both, and when and why? Josh, I never roll behind a screen ever. Never fudge rolls either. Well, it's hard to fudge rolls if they're not behind a screen, too. Ninja words. Yeah, I started with the red box. Oh, yeah, boy. That's old school. Awesome. The red box is the 1E, is a first edition starter set, basically, right? If I'm not mistaken. Or was it 2E? One of the early ones, for sure. Yeah, I started in 2E in the late 80s and loved it. The red box. Do you still have it by any chance? You still have the red box? Contingency has a multiverse world of its own, a massive 30-year lore base with unique classes, Joss, man. Of course it does. You are evil genius. Maro, I'm going to be rolling privately for the most part, I think. I think I like making players a bit nervous. Yeah, especially when you're starting bottled. I'd probably recommend, Josh, weigh in on this too. For a new DM, I think I'd recommend rolling in secret just because there are a lot of things that you might overtune or undertune or things you wish you had done differently. And rolling in the open really takes that away from you. And you could run the risk of doing something that maybe you wouldn't have done, like kill your whole party accidentally. And I think as a new DM with new players, it's okay to be a little bit more forgiving. I'm not a fan of fudging rolls, but if I were to protect it in any circumstance, I think it would be for newer DMs because there's so many things that you don't know. I think it's okay for you to say, you know what, I'm going to like tweak this a little bit because I want people to have a good experience. I think that's okay early in the game. I wouldn't judge anyone either way. Like some people fudge rolls, some people do. I don't shit on people for their process, but I think particularly for new DMs and new players in a new game, I think it's wise to roll in secret so that you have a little bit more control over the outcomes. But try to keep it as honest as you can because the caveat there is you never want your players to feel like what they're doing doesn't matter, right? And if they feel like the DM's always or the GM's always, shifting, fudging roles and changing the fates, then they're going to feel like they're just along for the ride. And that takes away from some of the magic of D&D where it is like a collective story that you do have an impact on. Josh, I have Redbox original. I have Redbox Envy now. I'm always rolling dice so players don't get to so dice triggering. I just roll to roll. Yeah, I do that too. I just unconsciously roll dice behind the screen because you also don't want to cue your tell to your players, right? So when they're gonna see you rolling dice, be like, oh shit, like Brad's rolling dice or Josh is rolling dice, like something's happening. So it's good to just keep rolling and just kind of keep them guessing. DM screen's a tool. Bottom arrow, sorry. Yeah, I'll definitely be fudging a little bit because I don't know how to balance things yet. I think that's totally reasonable. A DM screen's a tool. It can give you pacing and pause. It can be used properly. Yep. Later, the screen drops as confidence boosts. Yeah, I like that approach. And why not? It should evolve, right? Just like your style should evolve. Old Ninja, no, but I still have all my 2E year second edition stuff, including the unedited deities and demigods. Nice. There was a lot. There were so many great resources in 2E. I liked we were talking about psionics earlier, like the psionics handbook. I like all the handbooks that came out. There was like the paladin's handbook. Rolls with advantage. Welcome. Good to see you. I've been DMing a new player. Definitely fudged a few rolls at first. Our last session, I started rolling some important damage rolls in the open. Let her see how serious the situation was. Yeah, that's interesting too. It's very intentional if you bring the dice out around the screen and you're like, okay, now we're both along for the ride. So like, don't shit on me if you die here. Or if you have a player who does something particularly dumb or consistently does things that are particularly dumb, I might say, okay, you know what? Here, it's up to the dice now. So this is happening. Welcome, Rolls, by the way. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us on the Saturday. I'm loving this. It's good to be back, y'all. I want to keep it up. Another question I would like to pose. I would like to pose another question for posing to the community today. And that question is this. What is your most hilarious crit story? Give me some good crit stories. For me, it's actually not a crit attack. It is a critical death save. In the early stages of Charisma Check, when my players were lowly level 4s, we nearly had our first death in the tomb underneath a cathedral in the outlying region of Hillsfar. And this was Fawn, our monk character. He went down, and the party was in complete disarray. It was almost a complete TPK, 4 levels into the campaign. And Fawn went down. He rolled 1 unsuccessful death saving throw. He rolled a second unsuccessful death saving throw. And when all was almost lost, he rolled a natural 20 crit, got his 1 hit point, got back into the fray, and was able to heal another character who was a cleric. The cleric was able to then heal a third character, and they turned the whole battle around. And while the bard was running away, being chased by a train of skeletons. That's probably one of my funniest crit stories. What's yours? Yeah, I'm so glad you got to catch me live. I'm loving that we can do this in various parts of the web now, so that people can tune in on their favorite channel. And we're gonna keep doing that. I might even branch out a little bit more too. But yeah, this is great. This is all part of the new content approach. So Shazar critical miss, lunged with a lance, fell off the horse. The lance dislodged, and the portcullis lock dislodged the portcullis lock and dropped the portcullis on the BBEG, the big bad evil guy. That is great. Welcome. Good to see you. Good to see you. Everyone's coming into the fold now. It's Saturday afternoon. You know it's getting good. I started the stream a little bit later now. I'm scheduling the stream a little bit later now, so we get into 12. We get into that early afternoon crew. We start our Saturday off proper. And then we can go about our business into our respective games. That is hilarious. Don't like crits. Critical fails are often just as hilarious and amazing as any critical success. Do you know that technically you're not supposed to be able to crit on a skill check either? But that is something that I belay entirely because crits are always fun. Like if you're rolling a natural 20 on an athletics check, then yeah, you should be able to pull off something heroic. You know what I mean? So that's one of the rules that I've kind of house ruled away from. Yeah, because crits are always fun to play with. And I always tell people, don't be afraid to fail. Like those are gifts, like How boring would it be if you just like critically succeeded all the time, and yet when people see a 1, you know, they get disheartened. Although I think that's changing a lot. I think people are just excited to either see a 1 and 20 in equal strengths most of the case. What are some of your great crit stories? Fail, success, or otherwise? Although those are the only really 2 critical outcomes, aren't they? What about big damage crits? What are some big damage crits that you've seen at the table? Criticals are just like maxing a DC check. Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you there too. And there are some cases where even if it's critical, it might have like a an incredible effect, but it might still not make the impossible possible. You know what I mean? But it's always fun and interesting. Chris Boswell, every time a D20 is rolled. I agree. That's usually my approach too. I guess saving throws might be the exception, though. You either save or you don't. Yeah, gang. Gonna drop a couple of fill in the blank options. So I'm gonna give you a statement, and you fill in the blank. So my favorite D&D streamer / channel is, if I had to choose, I'm gonna throw to my fam at Encounter Roleplay. Honestly, they've always been a big supporter. They've always been a big inspiration for me, Will and the crew back in the day, and one of the earliest people I ever engaged with on Twitch. So who do you guys like in the streamosphere? Who are some of your favorite streamers or channels to watch? Lay them on me. All biased aside, this is not a, I'm not fishing here. So give me like somebody that you really enjoy, that you really draw inspiration from. 20 on a saving throw, 50% HP, fun times. Yes. Back in the day, had a DM that made you roll percentage to see where on the body you hit the enemy. Charging with a massive strike, 1% the enemy's foot. Sweet. Did you at least get that foot off? DM says you strike the enemy's foot, then you look up at him and drool while he smashes you in the face. Harsh vibe. We used to do that. We used to roll like called shots, I think was a mechanic in some older forms of D&D. Shadzar might know a bit more about that. I seem to remember like there was a called shots mechanic and a called shots table, and you could actually try and hit a particular body part. No one ever aimed for the foot, though. Oh, that's not true. You could aim to like trip an enemy or take somebody out that way. Sweep the leg, Johnny. Yes, AD&D called shot, natural 20 required. That makes sense. Yeah, I thought that was familiar. Glad we're not using that system anymore. Yeah, I know. Enough of those foot shots. Leave people's feet alone. Let's fill in the blank today with this one. I wish I could play in a streamed D&D campaign on the blank channel. What channel would you like to play in a streamed D&D campaign? I'm going to say my own because we haven't done it yet, but hopefully that'll be coming this week. So in my unbiased opinion, I would like to play a streamed game on my own channel. What about you? What are some great streaming channels that you'd like to have a seat at the table with? I'm a big fan of Harris Heller on Twitch. Oh, Harris Heller on Twitch? Gotcha. Okay. I'm going to have to go back and check out some of these folks. As Tonto said to the Lone Ranger, what's this wee shit? What's this wee shit, white man? Still play 2E? Oh, what's this wee shit? Gotcha. It's so hard to get the context. What's this wee shit? Still play 2E? Nice. Also use a critical location called shot mechanics. Yeah, using the original dice roll, D20. Good. Yeah, I think that's a cool one to kind of carry forward. Called shots were always fun. Like if you want to really like gamble it, You still play 2E, Shat? That's good. Still staying true to that Thaco. Ben bars, lift gates. A lot of really good times in 2E, man. A lot of great, great memories. Can't say any stream inspires me. Screw you, buddy. Designed it to help DMs with descriptions. Nice. Oh, I see. That's cool. So it's like a shots effects table kind of thing. Does it still have the effect, like different effects if you hit a different target? Just makes me more interested in toying with some coding and things. That's good. Yeah, because Shed, you're doing a lot of still for Fantasy Grounds, right? You're still doing a lot of coding for Fantasy Grounds tools. Good, Josh. That's nice, man. That sounds like a good tool. Making DM life a little bit easier. That is noble. They're cool. Let's try another one. All right, fill in the blank today. I once got the last blow on A or on N blank, and it was pure epic. Well, as a forever DM, I would say I once got the last blow on a player, and it was epic because it's epic every time. I get to drink in the tears of a player before I slowly tear their character sheet up. No, that's not true. That's not my style. But I have put more than a few characters into death saves. But there have been lots of epic last killing blows on BBEGs too. So yeah, definitely no complaints. It's equally fun for me on both sides of the screen when a finishing blow is executed. So what's your favorite killing blow? Doing the Wendy's RPG translation FG, but somebody should be running that soon. Nice. Is there not one? Are you what's the structure for that? How do they get it? Is it like a pay what you can, or? That's cool. That good on you. Get all over that. Tarrasque, is that you got the last blow on a Tarrasque and it was pure epic? I imagine that would be pretty epic. Tell me more. I mean, dude, I'd like to play in your campaign stream too. I would love to have you in the campaign stream roles. Keep an eye out. That'll be coming across Twitter for sure. So make sure you're in there. It's free online. Obviously can't link to it. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. No, yeah, you're right. I have to keep doing those refinements. So we'll bring that back in pretty soon. Tell me about your last blow on a Tarrasque, Josh. Classic. I feel like there should be like a real life achievement when you fight a Tarrasque in D&D. Rolls working on getting your own started as well, but wow, a lot to it. Yeah, it is. There's a lot of feastoflegends.com. Oh yeah, no, I know that, but your module, I mean, Shad, is it available on Fantasy Grounds now? Like, are you porting it over for Fantasy Grounds? Is that what you mean? Yeah, Rolls, it's a lot of work, man. It's a lot of work. It's rewarding though. Like, it's rewarding. I enjoy it a lot, so. Oh yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, they never got back to you on it, Shed, so I can't release it to the public. Yeah, that makes sense. You don't want if there's one way to get a response from them, it would be to release it. then you'll hear from them. Nice, good stuff, man. Thanks for watching your Twitters. Yeah, of course. Yeah, do. I've got the first community game is kicking off this week, hopefully on Wednesday, and once we get that kind of smooth and the operations flowing, which I don't think we're far from at all, then we'll probably be adding another community game. Yeah. Josh, I got so mad at the DM, I went down to the gullet of the beast. I think most Tarrasques have to be killed from the inside out, right? In 2020, that big 20 by 20, that big bad. Came ripping out the side, reduced its HP to 0, and then cast planar transposition and sent it to the elemental plane of water and cast planar anchoring. Wow. Right, you beast, mic drop. Good for you. Oh, well, the work included exclusive stuff shown in your YouTube videos. Okay, gotcha. So you're showing like the back end stuff and all that, but none of the brand stuff, I guess. But it'll be streamed on Twitch by someone, not sure. Oh, nice. That's great. That's great. So you have some play testers lined up for it? That's awesome. Are you using like 2E rule set, or are you keeping it in 5E? Yeah, exciting. Fun stuff, man. Everybody's creating. I love it. I love it. Pure brilliance. Fighting a Tarrasque is like in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 when Watts' face jumped inside the beast in the opening. Yeah, oh my god. It starts with a G. Help. I won't Google it. I want to say Grax or something. Oh, fuck. What is it? Drawing a blank. Blanking out on it now. No, Nakamura. No, I thought it started with a G, though. The guy, I know the guy, like the big jacked, like Polish dude or whatever. He's Polish to me, I think. I don't know. I usually use my inspiration die 2 or 4. What do you usually use your inspiration die for? As a DM, I give inspiration, and then I taketh away. Yeah, Drax. Is it Drax? Yeah, Drax with a G. Like I said, starts with a G. Drax. In my world, oh, thank you. Cookie Drop. What up?
The ball wench.
It's Drax. Thank you, Ba Wench. Back to the kitchens with you. My lovely wife.
Bye.
Thank God she has a great sense of humor. Drax, the G is silent. Exactly. My wife made chocolate peanut butter chip cookies last night. Man. Drax, silent G. Amazing. Where were we? I usually use my inspiration die to what? I usually give inspiration as a forever DM, and then I take it away when it's used. But some of the things I usually like to give inspiration for is, I hate the way this sounds, but I use it to reward like good play, right? So if somebody makes a really good role play choice, or they do something interesting or particularly funny or spectacularly out of the box, then I'll give inspiration. My challenge is usually forgetting about it. So my approach to inspiration, some of you may have seen, is I have 5 dice of the same color and type, and I give those out as inspiration. So when a player rolls them, they hand them back to me, so I can look around the table and see who has inspiration at any given time and how much inspiration I have, which gives me a reminder both of who has inspiration at the table and whether or not I'm being chintzy or cheap with my inspiration too. So what do you use inspiration for at the table? Only if the milkmaid lives on the other side. Shops swapping merch. What a location, right next to the bakery. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's a barter system. She gives me real cookies and I slide her like a fake rum. I've received one. Oh, nice. That's cool. Cookies to the left, milk to the right. Yeah, made in heaven. I give inspiration to my players when they really push those character moments. Yeah, I agree. I'm inclined to give inspiration for like really cool out of the box things. Eating cookies in the morning gets such a bad rap as if you started drinking before 10 a.m. That's true. It's true. I think people would be more inclined to watch me drink beer at 9 in the morning. But if I have a cookie for breakfast, I'm suddenly a bad influence. Fie, I say. Fie. So saith I. I made one out of a D20. She has a D20. She has a 20 facing up. One has a 1 facing up. I'm derping on that one. Made one out of a D20. A cookie? Are we still talking about cookies? Or are we talking about inspiration? I may be having a senior moment. The one is for disadvantage. Oh, I see. Oh, gotcha. Yes. Sorry. There can only be conversation about cookies at this point. Inspiration icon. Yes, now it makes sense to me. Sorry, I was in a cookie-induced haze for a minute there. Thank you for your patience. Sweet. Your boy got lost in a cookie drunkenness stupor. All right. But I have made D20 shaped cookies. Okay, good. At least all the bases are now covered. We're back on track. Of all the magic items in the Dungeons and Dragons world, I refuse to allow what in mine? What is the one or a few of the magic items that you just absolutely refuse to allow in your game? If I had to pick one off the top of my head, I would have to say a deck of many things, because it's like there's no better way to turn like years of campaign investment into absolute crap in a second than with a deck of many things. They're fun. I think I might do them for like a one shot or like maybe a little side thing. But I feel like a deck of many things, unless you tailor it heavily. But if you take a deck of many things stock out of the box, you're probably inviting just disaster into a lot of years of hard work and commitment. So that's one that I don't really like. Beyond that, there's nothing that I really wouldn't allow. I think there are some legendary artifacts that, rather than allow in a campaign, I might make like the end state of a story arc and then have it very seldomly or a limited use towards the end of a campaign, rather than something that could get pulled and completely change the arc of a campaign. There are a lot of great limited use artifacts that I've had that I've built entire story arcs around, or that have kicked off story arcs as well. So the only one that I'm really inclined to not allow or disallow would be the goddamn deck of many things. How about you? Don't make D4 shaped cookies. Yeah, that's right. Public enemy number one. But then I guess it's only really going to punish people if they swallow the cookie without chewing. Scroll of Wish. Yeah, Scroll of Wish seems a little bit baroque. When I host events, I host events. I have no doubt. No doubt. Polyhedron themed cookies and all. Alien technology from Blackmore. Yeah. I've recently just allowed I'm about to allow gunplay. Even that I use the term loosely. In one of my games, it's an artificer. It's an artificer component, but I was so pleased with and impressed by how this player brought them into the story and brought the mechanic into it, that I was like, yeah, no, okay, I'm sold. That's good. And he's a veteran player. He's going to be great with it. And it really is just a ranged weapon. It doesn't really allow, like, it's just a ranged weapon with a different narrative flavor. So I think it's going to add some really great color to his character, and like I said, he just sold it to me beautifully. If a character or a player is going to put the amount of time and effort into bringing something into the game, and they do it so eloquently, then I'm very seldomly going to push back on that. You know what I mean? PvP, yep, PvP, that includes disruptive players, zero tolerance on that. Oh yeah, is that as a magic item? But I do agree with you. Used to create so many homebrew items like ages ago. Those items would totally break the game now. Yeah, we did that a lot when we played 2E2. We just come up with the craziest shit, man. and it was just like so broken. Our characters were so broken. We would totally like fudge our own ability rolls, and everyone, I think nobody had less than like 2 18s, just stuff that doesn't happen naturally, right? PvP includes disruptive players, zero tolerance on that unless you're running special public play events where multiple groups are in competition to a singular goal payout. Largest group, 200 players are DMing for a prize. I'm with you there. I think like PvP is fine as long as the expectations are set very carefully and thoroughly up front. But like you, PvP seldomly goes well unless it is orchestrated. I think PvP and character conflict can add really delicious tension and great story elements as well, as long as it's done tastefully and tactfully, as long as everyone's on board. But the type of PvP where it's like, you know, screw you, I'm going at you, I'm gonna take this experience away from you is not cool. While it isn't a magic item, that's correct. But I still, as a sidebar, I agree. Ring of Teleportation, yeah, maybe a little too easy, right? Ring of Teleportation gets you around too many fun things in a sweep. Maybe a very limited use or maybe a special item that has a specific purpose for teleportation I might allow. But that makes sense to me. Yeah, unlimited uses, yeah, definitely no. It's like, yeah, it's like fast travel. Sure, just use your frickin' Hearthstone. No magic item I can't house rule, so option B. Just how ridiculous it was. Oh, that's one of the things. That's one of the homebrew ones you did, rolls with a ring of teleportation, unlimited uses. Yeah, that sounds brutal. Magic items can be reflavored, reworked, reskinned, reworded, or world anchored. I'm a big fan of that too. I reskin stuff all the time for narrative. I love it. If you do any of those things to tailor or water down a magic item, then you aren't allowing that magic item. You're making a custom item. That's fair too. Yep, and both of those scan. Yeah, like a deck of many things, or unless you had like a deck of many things with like most of the cards missing. I guess you could argue it both ways. Then you're making a custom item, which is a deck of some things, deck of a few things. That's what I would allow. I would allow a deck of some moderate things. I let any addition, even other homebrew at my table. Mechanics proper, keep mechanics, magic items on point. Yeah, for sure. But I'm sure you moderate them, right? Like yeah, I'm sure they have to pass your sniff test as it speaks. Deck of two things. That's right. One of them summons chocolate peanut butter chip cookies on demand. Totally, I teleport in behind my enemy and backstab him. Yeah, I never even thought about that. I was just thinking about the world travel brokenness. That's ridiculous. And then bonus action, I'll just teleport out to like Waterdeep. If the creator did not take into account mechanics, then I need to address it. Yeah, like anything. That makes sense. And talk about some DM tips for this week. My first DM tip to offer is to use varying degrees of success in your skill checks and challenges. For a DC 13, perhaps an 18 is a better result than, let's say, a 13 or 14. While both can succeed, they might garner different results. So how do you use skill checks at your table? Always love bringing in new items. Yeah, I've started this trend that's worked really well in all my campaigns where I'll take a player's backstory and somewhere in there I'll have what I'm calling legacy items. So these are items that are inherently woven into players' backstory, their own story. And it's like an item that kind of progresses with them. So they'll usually have 3 characteristics. The one up front is usually pretty light. It might be like a +1, or it might have some quality of life improvement. The second stage is usually a little bit more potent, so it might give them an extra ability or an extra spell slot or something like that. And the third is usually what makes it almost like borderline legend. No, I wouldn't say legendary, because the intention is for them to eventually outgrow it, right? But the legacy items will usually carry them through levels 1 to 10. So they have something that's special to them. And I think, first of all, it's given me a really great story hook option. So it's allowed me to write tons of narrative around these items as they relate to the players. But also it eliminates that whole, like, sometimes players feel like they're not getting any gear that's good for them, or they feel like they're under equipped. So it gives them something that's always going to be playing with them. So Skill checks are called ability checks rolled, as the book says. No DM fiat introduced. Yeah, skill checks are ability checks. With regard to yeah, but do you mean like no deviation? Oh, fiat bias. Okay, yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, no, absolutely. But I do think it's I think it makes sense though to have like varying degrees of success though. AD&D doesn't have skill checks. Oh, they were proficiency. They were proficiency checks, right? In AD&D. There's still proficiency checks, weren't there? Used legacy items as well, even gained ones. Yeah, 0 to 100th. Nice. Legacy. Yeah, no, I figured. I got you, Josh. NWPs were optional. What's NWP? Oh, non-weapon proficiencies. Right. That's right. Oh, man, that's right. It's coming back to me now. Yeah. I'm going to read some 2E stuff just for nostalgia. I liked it a lot. I kind of like that. So in 2E, if you're not familiar with it, there's a mechanic. Well, not a mechanic, I guess. If you rolled an 18, I don't know if it was limited to strength or not, but I seem to remember it particularly for strength. You then went into percentile, so you could have 18, but then it was 18 and 1 out of 100. So the 1 out of 100 would actually determine what your modifier was after 18. And I kind of liked that because it added some variation to having an 18. But I don't remember, Shad, was it limited to just strength, or was it any 18 went into that? Like, this is 18 and then it was a score out of 100. The strength only and fighters only. Okay, got ya. Were pallies included in that though? Because I almost exclusively played pally, and I remember that stat. I roll anytime there's a chance for success or failure. Yeah, it makes sense. Sometimes skill checks are an unrolled number like passive checks. Okay, gotcha. Is that just in general, or is that specific to your system? Depends on if you use the splat books. Are those the like the handbooks? So long since I've even looked at Tier could include the entire warrior class group. Yeah, see, I feel like some of my memories are so vivid of 2E, and clearly some of it I'm so foggy on. I'd just love to get reacquainted. That go for life. Players' options, mess and handbooks. Yeah, I got you. So like the other, all else, we'll say. Another DM tip for the week: pre-roll initiative for some of your baddies in conflict you feel might arise. That's going to save time when combat actually erupts. So often I'll pre-roll on a combat list, the initiative for various characters, so that when I bring them in, they already have a number attributed. I'm not saying pre-bake your combat, but if you know that there's a combat that might arrive and you want to prepare it a little bit, add initiative rolls ahead of time to avoid you rolling 20 or 30 dice if you like to throw 20 or 30 creatures at your players like I do. It's just to save you a little bit of time. I think we must have add a ton of house rolls with advantage. So much we didn't really understand. Yeah, there's a lot more house ruling. I think house ruling in lieu of knowing what the hell to do. It's part of the fun. When excuse me, when you guys played 2E, did you typically play in the same place and have like the same DM, or did you rotate both, or one or the other? When I played, we had one guy who was always a DM, always ran the game. Well, I shouldn't say always. For the most part, at least in the beginning, always ran the game. We almost always played at his house. We had like dedicated space, yes, in the basement, tropes aside. But then as we got into it, I'd say after maybe the first or second year we started playing, other people started stepping behind the screen a bit more. We used to play in various areas. I think there was a period where we actually rotated weekly just to help like kind of spread around, change of scenery and stuff. Both just sometimes run specific. Oh, for your system, sometimes run specific System-specific events for groups. Mechanically, checks are to drive story and key player ideas, DM arbitration, and check. Yeah, makes sense. It could be optional. Got you. Got you there. Grady, I love the widest selection options. Yeah, I do like the point you make is good about checks taking out some of the arbitration in the DM's purview, I guess. So add some organic randomness to it, I suppose. Mostly same DM Shed who wanted to keep track of 30 different games. Finished with one character before messing with another. Nice. Yeah, that's one thing. I don't think we ever actually finished a campaign. God, I think there was one that we did. One that we finished start to finish, and it was we just do the most random shit, man. I never hit level 20, never maxed out a character ever. Played a couple of campaigns where we started at like level 14 or level 15, or like there was a couple of other systems that were still 2E D&D systems like Council of Worms, Birthright, that you start at like an elevated level or you start as a dragon, which is different, of course. Yeah, never actually finished a campaign. The one that I'm DMing for Charisma Check will be probably the first campaign I've ever finished, and those will probably be the first level 20s for me and the whole table, I think. Rolls with Advantage, I was DM at first, had so many TPKs, then others started wanting to jump in behind the screen. Yeah, I can imagine. They're probably like, you know what? We're tired of your shit. We're tired of dying. Somebody else run the game. We had one DM who was just a jerk, man. He was just evil. Like, and that's not fun either. Like he was out to kill us. And it's like the DM can kill player anytime they want. It wasn't fun. He was constantly dickish, and like we'd want to do things and he wouldn't allow it, and it's just so manipulated. It's no good. No good, I say. We didn't really have campaigns, just on the fly sessions. It's kind of how we had persistent characters and a campaign setting, and we were doing things that were consistent, but we would just we get bored of it after maybe a few sessions and we just start something totally new. And 9 times out of 10, we all rolled the same, characters to play in a totally different setting. Marty Space coming from the tubes. What's up, Marty? Welcome back. Good to see you. Holy crap, I found you again. Yes, Marty, I'll keep trying until I get this right. So you remember earlier in the stream, I was saying I keep getting pulled away and coming back to stream, but I'll always keep coming back. And Marty is one of the OGs, one of my regular crew. Welcome back, Marty. Good to see you, my man. Josh, I ran 10 different ongoing games weekly for over 200 rotating players, never had issues. That's a crazy amount of volume. 5 groups campaigns wrapped up to players retiring in success to be NPCs for other games. 1 game ended in a lone character, 9 TPKs. The rest are still playing successfully. That's hardcore, man. That's D&D Survivor right there. Nutty. Marty, what's good? What's keeping you busy? Bottle Marrow, all right, I'm off to watch a movie with a friend. It was great to watch. Hope I'm around for the next stream. Yeah, absolutely, Bottle. Thanks for joining us. Great to have you on board. Hopefully we'll see you soon again. Keep in mind, Tuesday to Thursday, we're doing 10 to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Wednesday will be the community D&D game. Of course, every Saturday right here, 11 a.m. to about 2 p.m. And I will look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks for joining us. Pleasure having you. Enjoy your movie. Josh, each year we run campaigns all with definitive conclusions. That's a fucking luxury, man. I just want to finish one, you know? Marty, I'm actually watching with your son, trying to get him hooked early. Granted, he's 3 months old. Okay, we'll do me a favor, though, and tell him that I'm going to have to ask him to watch his language. This is a PG stream, so your 3-month-old can stay as long as as long as he's, just watches his language. That's all. Keep it civil. We're influencing a generation. That's amazing. I'm honored, Marty. Thank you. And welcome, Marty's son. You're about to enter a magical world with no boundaries, save your own imagination, which, knowing your dad, will probably be off the chain. Limitless, my friend. That's how we get them early. We start them at 3 months old with a parental guardian, of course, supervision. Joining the checkmates early. Officially the youngest member. Welcome, Marty's son, 3 months old, the youngest member of the checkmates. Pleasure to have you on board. Hope to have you rolling dice with us soon. If that's a tough act, he's Scottish after all. Yeah, you're right. I'm going to tailor my expectations. Oh, that's lovely. Even better. A wee Bern in the chat. Come to roll some dice with us today. Grow up big and strong with an imagination to walk us through the wildest stories we've ever seen. I think I went a little bit, almost went a wee bit Irish there. Hello to the wee Bern. I've been watching too much Outlander recently. Yes, not by choice. Or trained 10 new DMs to take the world's campaigns and group tests. Or training DMs. I love it. Pumping them out. Still support as league supervisor, providing support as needed. I have 3 ongoing 30-year campaigns. Jeebus. It's crazy. Read the DMG to them in the womb. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. My little rules lawyer. Haven't ran FLGS games in 8 months. I'm probably not going to be running much in FLGS for a little while yet. Hopefully soon, though. I'm loving the online trend that's come about, as primarily as a result of the situation we're in today. Of course, it's been around for a long time, but I'm definitely missing my my table game for sure. But hiding your dice at the moment so he doesn't eat them, that's a natural, that's probably good parenting, I would say. But we've been watching Critical Role from the start, which is interesting. Nice. Oh, yeah, getting back into it. So I said to my players, they hit, I think, the first season of Critical Role, they were like level 9, I think, when they started. And I remember saying to my characters, I was like, we are now at the level that the Critical Role group table were at when they started that series. I remember that because we had just started playing when I first watched Critical Role for the first time. We had started playing Lost Mine of Phandelver, and it was like me and a bunch of our theater friends had gotten into 5e together and were really like biting down hard on it. Liked it a lot, obviously. And I was at work and I came across Critical Role and I started watching it. I don't work there anymore, and this may be part of the reason. I sat there and I watched like Critical Role for the rest of the afternoon at my desk. I'm good at what I do. It was a one-off. I watched the rest of it at home off the clock. It was a shit job anyway. My boss was a dick, so. Have all online play since 8 months ago, Josh? Yeah. Online's good. It's better than no D&D. It's actually come so far. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, had a break from D&D, but getting back into a full swing, Marty. Good to hear. Good to hear. What about the console? Are you on the PlayStation? Have you picked up the twin sticks lately? I'm sure you enjoy me butchering a Scottish accent, too. Nobody asked for that. I'll stop. Another D&D DM tip this week for you. Try introducing someone to... Nope. I'm going to start that over again. Here to drop another D&D DM tip for you this week. If you're introducing someone new to D&D, try asking them if they like melee or ranged. From there, ask if they prefer to be active in RP or are they quiet, more reserved. Would they like a classic race or something a little bit more exotic? Large or small type? get some of these boxes checked off and then get them into the play and action as soon as possible. Nothing really serves a new player quite like the act of playing, so get the rules out of the way very early and leave most of the session for actually playing through and learning in the doing. They'll thank you for it later. Josh, well, off to pick up the wife from work. Been working on adventure. Started last night. Writing, nice. Drawing up notable maps, NPCs, and maps for it. Awesome. That's always fun. You getting a GoPro on the way? Good to hear. Put out your YouTube series. Oh, Teach and Train. Let us know, Josh. I'd love to see it. Let us know when it comes out. Have a great day. Enjoy your Saturday, your weekend. Thanks for coming by. Hope to see you again soon. Very much appreciate your support. Have a wonderful weekend. Martin, not yet. Got them at, you're on PlayStation also. He just laughed at my Scottish accent. Like, oh, please do. Yeah, that's great. Peace, Josh. Have a good one, man. That's hilarious. Who's a wheel, Alburn? Bern. I'll keep working on it. That's awesome. That's what I'm here for. I'm going to have like a babysitting stream coming up soon. You just sit your kids in front of the monitor and let's just do like goofy accents. Not that that's a goofy accent. I just realized it probably. Cool. I'm not allowed in Scotland now. That's right. Let's talk about player tips for you this week as well. Great player tip. If you want to inspire trust from your DM, then help them keep track of your resources with occasional updates, like I'm down to 1 inspiration die, or that was my last spell slot. Inspiring that trust at the table makes things a little easier for the DM, and it'll go a long way for table etiquette down the road. His name's Tommy Lee, and we've been busy since lockdown watching D&D and just goofing around. That sounds all right, man. It's a good way to make it pass. Tommy Lee. That's sweet, man. Congratulations, by the way. I should have led with that. It's definitely been 3 months since I've streamed, so yeah, congrats. That's awesome. New daddy. Is Tommy Lee your first? One of the player tips that I have to offer you this week is, please, no rules lawyers. People appreciate your familiarity with the rules and your understanding of the game when you can help with their questions, but not so much when you force feed them your superior D&D knowledge. Leave it at the door, bring the helpful nature, but don't try to police everyone all the time. It's not fun for everyone. Or anyone. It's not fun for anyone. I actually finished Doctor Who, and it's been a learning curve for sure. I bet there's no real handbook, right? He's your first year stepdad for 3 more. Noble, nice. So you got some miles. You got some skills. That's noble work, my friend. Glad to hear it. I'm so excited for you. That's very cool. And you're bringing him up to roll dice. That's the most important thing. Handbook would have been helpful for sure, no doubt. I'm going to start producing a new content piece called D&D Rule Solution. And in that, we're going to discuss everything that's not necessarily just the rules of D&D, but a little bit of theory around like where things came from, specifically as it relates to D&D 5e. So keep an eye out for that. We'll continue to record those throughout this stream, and I hope it's something that you'll enjoy. It's going to talk a little bit about the game that we love, and maybe some of the uncleared corners that people gloss over when they get into D&D. That's interesting and sometimes just good to know. I need a rules lawyer for raising kids. Yeah, no doubt. I think it would all be rules as intended. The rules as written, I think, would very quickly be undone, I'd imagine. Today's rules resolution, we're talking about the who's who of Dungeons and Dragons. So these are some names that you might know and some you don't. Today we're talking about Jeremy Crawford. You may have heard his name jump up from time to time. Jeremy Crawford is the lead rules designer on Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. And if you've read a Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition official book, he's probably had something to do with it. He's also the DM of Acquisitions Incorporated and the de facto rules as intended guru behind the Sage Advice Compendium. And the Sage Advice clarifies and lays out rulings for some of D&D 5e's most hotly debated rules and applications. First rule, don't let them on YouTube or Twitch until they're 18. Just let them watch junk on Netflix. It's safer. You might be right there. Well, you can pick and choose your battles, right? We're good here. I'm not throwing cats around or... I couldn't stream today with taking a dig at that. Mrs. woke up earlier to you playing Borderlands 3 with all the kids watching. I got an earful. Yep. That's awesome. What? It's cartoons. What? It's a cartoon. It's just a cartoon. Seemed benign enough. Absolutely nay Fortnite. No. Fuck that. I mean, darn to that. It's bad when I don't have an alternative for the F word. That's telling on its own. Yeah, not Fortnite. I mean, Fortnite's fun to watch and play. It's also a cartoon. Just make sure that you turn off your audio incoming. As long as only 2 of the kids start acting like Happy Jack. Yeah, that's the last thing you want. It's like, you don't want YouTubers and Twitch influencers raising your children, that's for sure. Today's D&D rule solution, talking about talking about behind the scenes of Dungeons and Dragons. Also talking about how to word good. Clearly not a forte of mine. Darn. Today's D&D rule solution, if they're more like guidelines, why are there even rules? Well, D&D is a game and games have rules. We need to be playing the same game on both sides of the screen as our players are and our game masters are. So it's important to have some understanding of the rules. But the rules are more tools for logic than hard, fast approaches, in my opinion. The number one rule is to have fun, of course. So for that reason, the rules are also malleable. And one of the rules that I do pull into play is the rule of cool. This was not invented by anyone who you think may have invented it. It's just a good general rule to make sure that everybody around the table is having a good time, and that includes the game master. English I can has it? Sometimes. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. One too many cookies this morning. Nonsense, I say. No such thing. There's always only just enough cookies. Just enough cookies, just enough cookies, just enough cookies, just enough. I missed jingles. I missed making up jingles on the spot. I am the last one. I have a question for you guys. I'm gonna drop this one, and you be. I have a question. I have a question for you. It only gets weirder. It only gets weirder. Marty, now might be a good time to change the channel. I'm the only Twitch streamer who's like, you guys should leave. Probably gonna want to get out of here now. It only goes downhill from here. Question for you all. I had some thoughts that I had around. Oh, I did it again. Some thoughts that I had around around playtesting, actually. So today's rules solution, I wanted to talk a little bit about playtesting specifically. So how does playtesting work for Dungeons & Dragons rules? Good games have to be tested. And in order to do that, we have to get them in front of players. D&D 5e was actually previously called D&D Next when it was in its first iteration. And further playtesting happens around things like Unearthed Arcana. So if you want to get into playtesting in Dungeons & Dragons, keep an eye out for opportunities to do so. Get involved with some independent writers and creators and run some Unearthed Arcana in your games and then submit feedback based on the surveys that Wizards hosts week over week. If you want to look into more formal playtesting, well, keep an eye on those Wizards announcements and the release of new playtest materials when they come out. And keep in mind that D&D 5e was playtested with more than 175,000 players before it was released. So there's always going to be opportunities to bring players into the playtest experience. Get on DM's Guild and reach out to some creators to see if they want help playtesting some of their new materials, adventures, or any other forms of D&D content. And then, of course, be active in the D&D community so that you get your name out there and you can be present. And don't hesitate to make your own intentions known or ask for those opportunities to playtest. So as though I always feel like there should be one more cookie. Good tip for players to communicate with the party. Otherwise, you end up trapped in a psychological hellhole prison because you ran into a kennel for hellhounds, and that's the only way you're saved. Sounds a little personal, Marty. No, you're absolutely right. Communication's key, though. Keep the lines of communication open all the time. As Sham goes through puberty, much stream at the age of 30 plus, Kappa. That's right. You're learning my English nuances too, it seems. Thank you for that. That's what I do. Everything is public now. You can watch me relive my puberty years. It's going to be exciting for everyone except for me. Although I definitely played more D&D in those days. That's the only good thing. That's the only thing I got that was nearly a level where I wanted it to be, was the amount of D&D I was able to play. Because I didn't have to worry about anything else. No, I mean... So I thought he could go invisible to sneak past the hellhounds, forgetting they can smell. Yeah, that's a bit of an oversight. This real tried and true collar system comes into play. You can't progress without talking. Yeah, not here. Let's go to a caller. This is a long one. I'm going to try and do it without reading from the page too much. These are just notes that I made before I came on for these more D&D rules solution. We're talking about the backstory of Dungeons & Dragons and the D&D's 5e Player's Handbook. The most important info you've probably never read includes a little snippet that talks about the origins of the rules and the mechanics of Dungeons & Dragons. The fact that it actually had its origins in the Midwestern United States, specifically Wisconsin and Minnesota. It was based around collaboration of friends sharing stories and the three core pillars of roleplay, exploration, and combat. While the origin story of D&D has vague in descriptions and distinctions, they always seem to involve the names of Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson, usually followed closely by Holmes, Mulvey, Cook, Greenwood, Hickman, Weiss, and more. Early versions of D&D rule books and sources were actually named after their primary contributor. And that's something that I learned from my community on chat, actually. Specifically, Sheds. All right. I think, Shed, you were the first person who told me about how the early books were named after the writers, right? No, the D&D caller system from BD&D? Only one player interacts with the DM, and they all have to discuss what they're doing, and that one player explains it to the DM, so they have to have it all sorted out before the DM knows what they're doing? Wait a second. Oh, yes. No, I remember that. Where did that come up recently? Yeah, so you have you basically have like a spokesperson for the group, right? Everybody discusses what they have to do, and then is that what you mean? There was no edition numbers. BD&D was just BD&D with each new version was different, so the only way to distinguish was to say which author. Oh, is BD&D basic D&D? So like 1E? Are they the same thing? So I'm bombarding you with questions. 1E is AD&D? I thought 2E was considered AD&D. I thought AD&D and 2E were the same thing. Is that bounce back depending on who you ask kind of thing? Basic D&D is Holmes, Mulvey, Cook, Menser, Rules Cyclopedia. AD&D is 1 and 2E. Ah, okay. Started with AD&D second edition. Okay, good. I didn't know that so that's why it was confusing me, because I always I know that I started in AD&D and it was always 2E, but I didn't realize that 1E was also considered AD&D. Right, got to bounce Fee the wee man and put him down for a nap. Pleasure seeing you again, sir. I hope the little man has a restful sleep and gives you a little bit of a break too. Sounds like you guys are having great fun. Congratulations again. Have a wonderful weekend. Great to see you again. I'm sure we'll see you again soon. Thanks, Marty. Had no idea there was anything before it at the time. Yeah, that's the failure of all 3 in 2000, because it brought about that problem. Right, where they started just like kind of slotting them into editions. Interesting. In today's rules solution, we're talking about character creation stripped down and what really goes into a D&D character. How do you begin to breathe life into that character that you want to play? Well, I usually break down character creation into these simple steps. Talk about the concept, type, melee, the action or support behind the battle and the battle scene. Then I ask my players to select a background so they can determine the story behind their player. From there, I ask them to only then consider what class they might like to play based on the first 2 questions. And then I'll usually encourage them to choose a race that backs up that class or complements that class. Although this isn't really hard and fast either. If somebody wants to play a gnome fighter, then they should be a gnome fighter. Then I ask them to close their eyes and picture that character in combat in a role play or exploration scenario and how they would play out. And then I help them build the rest of the character out according to that vision. From there, I ask my players to think about writing out a description of how somebody would describe their character after seeing them for the first time to help them nail down a visual representation of what that character is, and then just get ready to have the best gaming experience of your life. That's a failure. Wizard of the Coast. Sorry, I read that already. There was 6 versions of BD&D. I'll just call D&D. So 3rd should have been like 7th edition. Yeah, gotcha. There were 6 versions of BD&D. Hey? So would they all have been attributed with different author names or different creator names or contributor names? I don't even know what the right terminology is for that. Yeah, I had no idea either. I didn't realize it had gone through that many iterations. Roles switch sides, hey? Nice. I got a thing showing all of them around here somewhere. Oh, yeah. Oh, nice. Like, yeah, a video you got? Must have been back in the day. So when it was all Latin, so you could summon demons easier. That's hilarious. Yeah, it's cool. I'd like to see those. Next Saturday, I'll allow links and you can push them in chat. I forgot how to chat mod. Go check your clips. Yeah, I will. On Twitch or on YouTube? Nice. Will do. Hey, again, today we're introducing a new content series called Sage Advice Unfurled as well. So what is Sage Advice and why is it important? Well, Sage Advice is a robust compendium that seeks to clarify rules as written versus rules as intended for some of the most hotly contested 5e rules. It's authored by D&D 5e lead rules designer Jeremy Crawford. And it also includes errata for rules that have changed over time. Often when an official campaign or an official compendium is published, they have changes that come out post-publishing. So those are all represented in Sage Advice as well. It's typically updated every other month as more player and character questions come in through the community so they can answer and address some of those more confusing or more obscure rule states. And when I do that, I'm basically using this opportunity to clip out new like content series as well. So I'm kind of clipping and recording stuff for Twitter as we're streaming live as well. I have to maximize my time here because it's limited and I want to do everything. So I have to you guys are being party to my recording process as well at the same time. YouTube only has Feast of Legends. Okay, gotcha. I'll check your Twitch clips. Yeah, when totally followed you on Twitch but didn't get a notification. There you are. But you didn't? What? Why? What? Why not? That's so whack. You have to click the bell on Twitch. Oh, I see. Sorry, I thought you meant you followed, but you didn't get an on-screen notification. Oh, I see. But yeah, gotcha. More like you too, since you've been away. Yeah, I know. I imagine. I'm sure. Oh, that reminds me too, Shad. After we had that conversation on Wednesday about like the payout, I was looking into it because I was like, you know what? Why haven't? It's annoying for me because you guys know I don't do this for the money, but I do care when people contribute to the stream that it's important that they know that contribution's getting where it's supposed to go. And I had an issue because I hadn't seen a cent from Twitch. My donations are coming through no problem. I got those are great, and fortunately the bulk of them are that, but like subscriptions and bits and stuff like that I haven't seen anything from. So it does turn out that there's still $100 threshold, which is sad on its own because I've been streaming since I've been an affiliate since 2017, and in the last 3 to 4 years, 3 years I've made less than $100. So that's why I haven't actually they haven't paid me out, because there's still $100 threshold. So it's also a little peek behind the curtains if you're looking at being a streamer full time. you can expect an annual salary of around 70 to 100 American dollars. No, I don't like, I'm not as aggressive as like full-time life, like, career streamers, I guess. So I'm sure it's a lot more lucrative than that, but there are a few steps in between here and there. I'm not Ninja, right? Like, I don't sneeze and make 500 grand. I'm usually Shams Pimp. Yeah, I know. Yeah. I'm like, don't do it. Don't donate. I don't need the money. And Shazor's like, here, throw him $1. I appreciate that. Like that. But I have, in my revamp or review of the shit, I accidentally inadvertently blocked links in chat. So I'll have that fixed for next time. Falling down on it. Sham's trying to get me paid and I'm making it difficult. So with today's sage advice unfurled, we're talking about the rule books. So what books are actually considered rule books under 5e? There are actually only 3 books that are considered rule books in 5th edition D&D, and those are the Player's Handbook, the Dungeon Master's Guide, and the Monstrous Manual. There are also 2 tertiary guidebooks or rule books, including the Adventurers League Guide and the Standard Rules Definitions. But they aren't really considered rule books, more resources to help flesh out a DM's knowledge and a player's knowledge, or determine how they use these sources in their games and how their games are governed by the rules. That didn't seem to make any sense. Those are the only rule books in all versions of the game. The rest are supplements and accessories. Yeah, that makes sense. You can see the link in your mind. Duly noted. I can picture the link. I remember what it looked like. Unearthed Arcana 3.5 edition is one I often suggest. Jeez. Wow, words again. One you often suggest, Josh, sitting in the parking lot waiting for it to get out of work. Oh, you're still with us. I appreciate that, man. Admire the dedication. Much appreciate. Very thank you. So what's Unearthed Arcana 3.5 edition? Was it something they actually released then? I only know Unearthed Arcana as it pertains to the playtest options in 5e, but I might re-record that one later. As I'm reading that back, I'm like, that doesn't even make sense to me, and I wrote it. It's a physical book and a PDF. Nice. So is that where they drew like the idea of Unearthed Arcana for playtest in 5e, or was it also playtest in 3.5? So in today's Sage Advice Unfurled, we talk about errata a little bit. We've heard of it. You might know about it. And errata is usually published to correct oversights or changes in the rules or source compendiums after they're published. To err is human, obviously. So errata is designed to make changes after these resources hit the market. After these resources have hit the market. Think of them as like a patch or an update to a published material. Now, there have been a number of errata published, particularly for 5e, that can significantly change how you play either a campaign or use a resource compendium like Xanathar's Guide to Everything or Tyranny of Dragons. So make sure you take a look and see what was published after the material you bought, because it might have significant ramifications for how you run the game and how it affects your players. All books are tools. Leave no edition behind. That's fair. Holistic, comprehensive, admirable. Unearthed Arcana was AD&D 1E, the book that by itself was considered AD&D 1.5E. Man, I had no idea that this stuff was around in AD&D 1E. It kind of gives you perspective on how much they've actually just kind of reskinned, hey? They drew the idea. It's full of optional mechanics, adjusting mechanics, and how to build them, rule them. Should all be in the DMG. Nice. Good to know. So that's been a practice for a while. And came out just 4 years prior to 2E and added things like non-weapon proficiencies. Interesting. So the game that I came into was actually the product of a lot of this testing and changes. I didn't even know that. I had no idea. I have all Unearthed Arcana books, Josh. Nice. 1.5E, 2E, 3.5. That is quite a collection. I'm jealous of your collections, folks. Jelly bras. I think, there's just been a lot of, I think they're just retooling things for 5e, but I guess the new players, it's all new, right? And that's fine. But I'm very conscious of how much is being repackaged for the edition and then resold versus things that are really good, like original pieces and original content. Because we don't want our manufacturers to get lazy on us now, do we? I think adaptations are good, but there's got to be a healthy mix between adaptations and new content, right? I'm a lore delver. Me too. I love the lore. I love my lore. So in today's Sage Advice Unfurled, we're asking the question, well, based on what we've talked about already, what are the official source books and why aren't they rule books? Well, there have been dozens of source books published, like Adventurer's Guide to Wildemount, the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, Xanathar's Guide to Everything, Vola's Guide, and Eberron Rising from the Last War. But they're source materials that provide new and exciting options for players and DMs alike, more than rules guides on how the game is played or run. Sometimes these books can, of course, be a combination of both. And they introduce campaign settings and rules at the same time, like Eberron Rising from the Last War, including adventures, campaign, lore, and new player and DM options. Fires cannons at cannon. They should just stop repacking and just say link to this previous. I have copies upon copies of their look back repeat. Yeah, I'm sure. That's all Unearthed Arcana now, just playtest material. Yeah, it is. Yeah. You're just buying errata for the previously free content. That's interesting. That's an interesting point. I think that's valid too. It's almost like they're just updating and porting, right? So I'm with you there too. I mean, and then yeah, I'm with you on that. Feel bad for them sometimes not actually fresh. They have so much they could do. Yeah, and I feel like they're throttling it back, like they're afraid they're gonna run out of material, and that's just not gonna happen. You know? There's so much. They're like I feel like we're gonna get to 6th edition, and I'm not endorsing that. It just gets thrown around. But we'll get to like the next iteration of D&D before we get anywhere away from the Sword Coast of Forgotten Realms. You know what I mean? There's a lot of options, and then we're gonna be back to iterating this kind of stuff. I think that's where the 3P community has really been fantastic, though, because, I mean, realistically, and I think more and more people are getting used to the idea of going to DM's Guild and Drive Through RPG to consume third-party materials, because they're, you know, you don't have to get upset because XYZ area of the Forgotten Realms isn't represented officially. There's going to be a ton of lore and adventure options and modules in DM's Guild, and I think this situation we're in now has actually brought people more into the fray of checking out DM's Guild, and hopefully that'll support more third-party creators, because there's a lot of really great minds out there. There's a lot of crap for sure, but like anything on the internet, you know, there's a lot of really good, high-quality producers and writers. They already ran out of ideas. They're already making Keep on Borderlands for 5e. I know. There's people on both sides of that, though. Some people will love to see it. Keep on the Borderlands was the first ever, check me on this, Shed and Josh, the first ever real adventure published for D&D, right? Or for D&D, for AD&D. It's pretty famous. Like, I'd love to see Keep on the Borderlands for 5e, but like make it, I don't know, like let a third party producer create it or something. I don't know. I don't know. There's just a lot of opportunity there. They need mechanics fixed and then go all 2e style adventure spotlight. They need fresh meat. Yeah. Can take lore if they need new key material for what's happening. It's a joke. Discord is a better VTT. Oh yeah, I was that's interesting because I was looking at other VTTs. Obviously, we hear a lot about Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds, but Astral is one of them. It's yeah, not so good, huh? Like Tomb of Horrors, Josh? Yeah. Yeah, do you think Tomb of Horrors should be its own module? Because they've touched on it in actually the Infernal War Machine, or the Infernal Machine build was had some play in the Tomb of Horrors. You can grab Keep on the Borderlands right now. They repeat look backs instead of more what if now, or what did that adventure leave us? Where did that adventure lead us? Jesus. Where did that adventure leave us? I'm getting lazy and I cannot speak properly. I cannot use the words. I cannot use the words. Roll20 online service has no actual rules. Had to be code in Java. Oh, I see. Yeah. I don't know why they're trying to break through in that one. That's a tough place to be. There are two 800-pound gorillas in the VTT market, and they're Fantasy Grounds and Roll20. It's not much room for much else there. Who wants to code their character's sheet in JavaScript? Yeah, not me. Not I. It could be tombs exist on every dimension. Gary said is one of many. Yeah, absolutely. And I like those ones that have crossover too, right? Like you can play them in any setting. They always say that about everything, but if you publish something and it's set in the Forgotten Realms, and most people are going to have a hard time getting out of the mindset of this is a Forgotten Realms thing. Continuing with Sage Advice Unfurled today, we're talking about the official source books that are currently available for Dungeons and Dragons, and what are they? So, fun fact, the first basic rules in the D&D 5e starter kit, Lost Mines of Phandelver, came out full 2 months before the player's handbook was even released. From there, let's talk about the official rule books. They are the Player's Handbook, the Dungeon Master's Guide, and the Monstrous Manual. The two tertiary ones to that are the Free Basic Rules and the Adventurers League Player's Guide. The only official source books that have been released so far are Elemental Evil, Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, and the campaign setting for the Sword Coast loosely, Volo's Guide to Monsters, Xanathar's Guide to Everything, and Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. The official adventures that have been published for 5e include Lost Mine of Phandelver, that came with the starter kit, Tyranny of Dragons, Princes of the Apocalypse, Out of the Abyss, Curse of Strahd and the campaign setting of Barovia, Storm King's Thunder, Tales from the Yawning Portal, Tomb of Annihilation, the campaign setting of Chult, Waterdeep Dragon Heist, Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage, The Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, which is also a campaign setting in Magic the Gathering, Ghosts of Saltmarsh, which is loosely ripped from the Greyhawk setting, Acquisitions Incorporated, Dragon of Icespire Peak, which is the new Essentials Kit campaign, Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus, and the campaign setting of the Nine Hells, Eberron Rising from the Last War, which is the campaign setting of Corvair, The Explorer's Guide to Wildemount in the campaign setting of Wildemount, and the upcoming Mythic Odysseys of Theros, which is another Magic the Gathering campaign setting of Theros. Asherak was collect. Oop, let me get caught up here. Oh, Tailspire's in beta. Yeah, you've mentioned Tailspire before too, right? And Rick and Morty. I know. Yeah, I didn't go into box sets. I didn't mention in like Stranger Things or Rick and Morty. Josh Esserak was collecting souls for Orcus. He actually built multiples all over just to capitalize on soul volume, each one unique. Those are the tombs. Nice. Didn't we get a copy of the Essentials? How was that adventure? I have one. I'm actually going to be building that on stream too. I kind of went back and forth between building. I wanted to like the second half of this stream upcoming, hopefully moving forward, is about 1:00. We'll transition over to game prep. But I ran into, sorry, this is a long explanation for the question that you just asked. But I can't do game prep on stream for any of the games I have working right now because my players are part of the community and they'll see all the game prep that I'm doing. So I've always hesitated around that. So I want to just prepare something that I'm not running. And I was going to do Lost Mines of Phandelver. I probably still will. But then they released that for free on Roll20. So it's kind of like done. So I'm thinking of doing the Essentials kit, Dragons of Icespire Peak instead, Dragon of Icespire Peak instead. So I might be doing that on stream, actually. It looks pretty good. It looks pretty fun. It's kind of like... it's like Lost Mines of Phandelver 2.0. It even takes place around Phandalin, the same area. So, and I would pay the money for the dice on the new screen anyway, because I'm a nerd like that. DDE has 4 adventures. DDE. 3 are available only from D&D Beyond and Fantasy Grounds Roll20. DDE. DDE. Help me out. DDE. What's DDE? I can't get it. Oh, D&D Essentials from D&D Beyond. Okay, gotcha. Wait, so you mean the same thing, the D&D Essentials kit? Or is that like the set? Is that outside of the D&D Essentials kit? D&D Beyond wrote Essentials. Oh, Expanded Adventures. Oh, yes, that's right. Yes, yeah, I do know that. Yeah, that's right. They continued it after. Yeah, I did see that somewhere. I haven't looked into them though. What do you think? Are they worthwhile? If I was going to do like an Essentials kit focus, like a game prep on Dragons of Icespire Peak, should I go into those Expanded Adventures as well? Or just do the core one that's included in the box? Nice. They used to have Adventures League free PDFs, but they're all pay to play. Costs you $1,300 to run each season. Yeesh. That's like asking, do you do Drow and Queen of the Spiderweb Pits or just Against the Giants adventure? That's a deep cut. You got me there. I don't know, but I'm going to assume that is the equivalent of asking a stupid question. I accept. Folks, I'm about to wrap it up for this Saturday, the first stream back in a very long time, and I'm thrilled to have spent it with your fine selves. Giants 1, 2, 3, Drow 1, 2, 3, Queen. Oh. I see. Okay. So it wasn't that big a dig. Josh, you just need to grab an old one or one someone rolled for a game world. Gotcha. Well, this is the Wednesday one, the community D&D. That's why I'm calling it DM's Guild Showcase, because I'm going to be running exclusively third-party adventures and modules. So I'm really excited about that because it lets me do 2 things. It lets me bring the community into a gaming experience, share it with the community on stream, and showcase third-party creators. There's a lot of really good stuff out there. So, if you have a modular adventure, Josh, that yeah, and it doesn't have to be on DM's Guild. I'm just calling it that. Do you have anything on DM's Guild, Josh? Or Drive Through RPG? I'm just starting with DM skill because it's familiar. It doesn't really have to be one or the other. But if you've got one that you want to showcase, it doesn't have to be DM skilled. Seen as who you are and all. Let me know. Maybe we can talk about that. I just want good adventures to play with the community. And I figured at the same time, if we can showcase people, why not? You have 345 adventures and none of them are on either DM Skilled or Drive-Thru RPG. Respect. Okay. Got to share that with the world, my friend. Gots to share it with the world. 34 full-on campaigns. You are a one-person shop. Okay. That's work, man. That's so much work. Respect. Mad respect. There we go. I had to fix my camera because because it was cutting off my hair. And I was like subconsciously hunching over. How vain is that? More like fun than work. Of course. But fun work is still work-like sometimes. Well, on behalf of our amazing community, myself and my hair, I want to thank you for spending your Saturday afternoon with us. I look forward to seeing you soon again on stream. Yes, I do have an outro screen because I was tired of just like waiting and smiling foolishly at the camera until I blacked out or until the screen blacked out, whichever comes first. So in the meantime, gang, thanks for hanging out. Always a pleasure to have you by. Don't forget, Saturday, 11 a.m. to about 3 p.m., we're going to be doing exactly this. Next week, we'll start bringing in the game prep into stream, so we'll continue on for the rest of the 2:30/3-ish endpoint. But beyond that, if you want to see me before then, because I know you might just have that requirement in your life, then you can catch me Tuesday to Thursday between 10 p.m. and 11 p.m. for bedtime stories, which is not as weird as it sounds. It's just playing video games. And then, of course, Wednesday, we're going to start kicking off our first streaming D&D community games. I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be fun. It's going to be full of technical glitches. And I really hope to see you there with me next week, right here on Shambazzle Games. So until then, happy gaming, be good to one another, and we'll see you next time for another stream right here on Shambazzle Games. Much love, y'all. Take care of each other. Wash your hands. And we'll see you soon. Peace.